Chapter 160. Xia Dong nodded and stroked her abdomen with her right hand. It's already been 3 months. He looked as if he had been struck by lightning. His face was pale and he let go of her stiffly. The child is Mika Kito's. Do you love him? Xia Dong did not know how to answer him. She wanted him to give up, so she should answer him accordingly. However, she did not want to use Mika Kito as a shield anymore. Why aren't you answering me? He shouted agitatedly. Do you know how much courage I had to muster to confess to you? Are you not even willing to give me a reason? She looked up at him. The dim light cast a shadow on her face. My heart has been given to the 3 children. I don't have the energy to talk about feelings anymore. Fox, let's just be friends. She picked up the umbrella and wanted to leave. He suddenly grabbed her hand. You really can't do that. I'm sorry. Other than these 3 words, she did not know what else to say. Inch by inch, he let go of her hand and watched as she walked further and further away under the streetlights with the umbrella. The pitter-patter of rain had unknowingly become heavier, and it fell into the lake. The lotus lanterns were extinguished one by one, and in the end, there was only a single lantern left floating in the lake. Bailey Yun looked at her figure disappearing into the night. His mood was terrible. He had failed. Was he really going to give up on her? After walking a distance, the tears in Xia Dong's eyes finally fell. She was so silly. The fox liked her for 5 years, but she didn't realize it. Or rather, she knew it, but she pretended not to know. It was all because she was greedy for his elegance and the warmth he gave her. A figure approached her. She was startled and raised her head abruptly. What she saw was Bailey Han's familiar face. He was holding a black umbrella and seemed to have blended in with the night. Why are you here? Bailey Han looked at her. His handsome face was unusually handsome under the dim light and his whole body was cold. I'm just taking a walk. One had to know that it would take an hour to drive from his house. He really knew how to walk around casually. The 2 of them were silent. Unknowingly, they had already reached the ground floor of her house. She mumbled, I'll go up first. His voice was cold. Aren't you going to invite me up? Out of politeness, she should indeed invite him up to have a seat. However, their current situation seemed to be very awkward. I'll send you up. Before she could say anything, he had already made the decision for her. He entered the elevator first and pressed the button to wait for her. The floor numbers jumped, and when the number reached 4, the elevator suddenly shook and stopped moving. The lights went out, and the small space was plunged into darkness. The elevator was out of order. Xia Dong quickly took out her phone and used the weak light to illuminate the elevator. Bailey Han also took out his phone and called for help while reaching out to press the elevator alarm. Don't be afraid, the maintenance staff will be here soon. Bailey Han comforted her after ending the call. Xia Dong smiled bitterly. We're really unlucky. We've never encountered an elevator malfunction before. What a coincidence that the 2 of us encountered it together. Bailey Han suddenly hugged her and said in a low voice, You know, I'm very glad that I walked into the elevator with you just now. Her heart trembled. Why? He stroked her long hair and his actions were unbelievably gentle. How could I be at ease leaving you alone in here? It would be a lie to say that she was not touched. Her heart felt like it was stuffed with a ball of cotton. She even forgot to push him away and muttered, You shouldn't be so good to me. He smiled bitterly. I don't want to either. I know that you're someone else's woman, but I just can't control myself. Because he couldn't control his longing for her, he drove to her neighborhood and happened to see a scene that he shouldn't have seen. Xia Dong felt helpless. She realized that she had gotten herself into a lot of emotional debt. Did Ayun confess to you? There were so many lotus flower lights. He only needed to look at them from afar to understand Bailey Yun's intentions. She softly said, Oh. Then how did you reply to him? His hand involuntarily tightened around her shoulders. She laughed. Didn't you say that I'm someone else's woman? Of course, I could only reject him. Looks like you really love Mikakito. Bailey Han's anger rose in an instant. The narrow space was filled with a cold aura. She gently pushed him away and pursed her lips. She didn't say anything else. The atmosphere suddenly became very tense. Just then, someone knocked on the elevator door. The people inside don't worry. We'll get you out as soon as possible. There were clanking sounds outside the door. It was the maintenance staff using tools to pry open the elevator door. Soon, the elevator opened a very small gap. The gap grew bigger and bigger. A head peeked in from above the elevator door. It was a man in his 40s. Both of you, give me your hands. I'll pull you up. It was only then that Xia Dong realized that the elevator had stopped between the 4th and 5th floor. It was about 1.5 meters below the entrance of the staircase. If it were any other day, Xia Dong could easily climb up. But now, she was pregnant. Come up. Bailey Han understood her predicament. He squatted on the floor with his back facing her and pointed to his shoulder. She couldn't help but recall the time when they were on the deserted island. After she was bitten by a snake, he carried her on his back. He was already impatient. What are you waiting for? It's not the first time. Xia Dong's face instantly darkened. What did he mean by it's not the first time? It sounded very easy to think of strange things, okay. She carefully climbed onto his shoulder. He stood up steadily and slowly. The maintenance staff outside the elevator reached out to grab her and pulled her out. The maintenance staff reached out again and pulled Bailey Han out. Thank you so much. Xia Dong thanked the two maintenance staff gratefully. The maintenance staff exchanged a few pleasantries and continued to deal with the malfunction. Xia Dong and the others climbed the stairs upstairs. When the door opened, Xiao Bao, who was nestled on the sofa playing on the computer, didn't even raise his head. He said lazily, Mom, why were you gone for so long? I'm back now, aren't I? Xiao Bao, stop playing. Uncle Bailey is here. Hurry up and say hi to Uncle. Xia Dong took out a pair of clean slippers and placed them beside Bailey Han's feet. Xiao Bao quickly raised his head. His dark eyes stared intently at Bailey Han. His tone was a little harsh. Bailey Han, what are you doing here? Xiao Bao, don't be so rude. Xia Dong reprimanded him sternly. Xiao Bao rarely got yelled at so harshly by her. He felt very wronged and glared fiercely at Bailey Han, who had just entered the room. I hate you. He quickly jumped off the sofa, hugged his laptop, and ran back to his room. Bailey Han didn't look too good. Xia Dong was full of guilt. I'm sorry. Xiao Bao is too willful. I didn't teach him well. His thin lips moved. It's okay. She quickly asked him to sit down. What do you like to drink? Tea. He looked around the living room. Although he had been here a few times, he had never really looked at it seriously. It was a very warm and cozy place that made people feel relaxed and comfortable. He leaned against the soft sofa and watched as she picked up the tea set. Her movements were elegant as she heated the teacups and poured the tea leaves. The tea leaves slowly sank and the tea leaves unfolded. The water vapor mixed with the fragrance of the tea rose like clouds. Her expression was calm as she poured, and ordered the tea. The tea slowly flowed into a small transparent glass teacup. You know the art of tea. Every time he got close to her, she would give him a new surprise. I have a lot of time now. I'm interested, so I learned a little. Sorry for making a fool of myself. He picked up the teacup and smelled the fragrance of the tea leaves. No, it's very good. He wasn't lying. Her skillful postures were even more standard and elegant than those rich miss who came from wealthy families and had learned the art of tea. She chuckled. He put down the teacup and looked at her. Are you still feeling unwell now that your drug addiction is acting up every day? I'm already much better. The antidote you brought is very effective. I haven't thanked you properly yet. He smiled. You already owe me a lot of thanks. It doesn't matter if you owe me one less time. She raised her eyebrows. Are you blaming me for not repaying you? He crossed his arms and looked at her provocatively. You're the one who said it. I've never said it before. Xia Dong's mouth twitched. He had indeed never said it before. He had only asked her directly how she was going to repay him. Mom, Xiao Bao suddenly ran into the living room in a panic. Gigai has a fever. Xia Dong stood up from the sofa. The back of her hand accidentally hit the teacup and the hot tea spilled all over the table. It also scalded the back of her hand. She didn't take it to heart at all. She said, "Excuse me," and rushed to her daughter's room. Bailey Han frowned. His eyes were filled with worry as he chased after her. Xiao Guai was lying on the bed with her eyes tightly shut. Her delicate eyebrows were knitted together and her little face was filled with pain. Xia Dong quickly checked her temperature on her forehead. It was frighteningly hot. She quickly took a jacket and put it on Xiao Guai. Then she carried her and said to Xiao Bao, "Baby, Mommy will send Gigai to the hospital. After I leave, lock the door and go to bed early. Don't make me worry." "I got it, Mom. Hurry up and go." Xia Dong turned her gaze to Bailey Han. "I'm sorry. My daughter is sick. I have to take her to the hospital. I'll go with you." Bailey Han stretched out his arm without hesitation. "It's inconvenient for you. I'll carry the child." Xia Dong didn't refuse. She placed the child in his arms, took her handbag and umbrella, and hurried out. The elevator was working normally. Xia Dong was still a little worried. Bailey Han had already carried his daughter into the elevator. She had no choice but to follow. Fortunately, the elevator didn't have any more problems. It was still raining. Bailey Han took off his jacket and wrapped it around Xiao Guai. Xia Dong held the umbrella over their heads. Bailey Han found his car and put Xiao Guai in the back seat. "Sit behind the child. It'll be easier to take care of her." Xia Dong was worried that the rain on her body would get on Xiao Guai, so she took off her jacket. Bailey Han turned up the temperature. Beauty novel, Songshu 566. Chapter 161. Xiao Guai was sent to the emergency room. Xia Dong sat in the corridor of the hospital and waited anxiously. Xiao Guai had been fine before she went out to meet Bailey Yun. Why did she suddenly have a fever? A fever meant that there was a possibility of infection. Severe anemia was more difficult to control after an infection, and it could be accompanied by complications such as sepsis. Xia Dong couldn't control her mind and kept coming up with scary thoughts. She stared at the door of the emergency room, and her teeth clenched slightly because of her trembling. Bailey Han sat beside her and clearly felt her fear. He couldn't help but reach out and hold her cold right hand. He whispered, "Don't worry, Xiao Guai will be fine." He didn't understand why she was so scared when it was just a common fever and a cold. His strength seemed to be transmitted to her through his palm, making her feel that she wasn't alone and that there was someone with her to get through this difficult time. Her emotions gradually stabilized. Bailey Han felt that Xia Dong had stopped trembling. He wanted to retract his hand, but he couldn't bear to. Unexpectedly, she suddenly pulled her right hand out and said softly, "Bailey Han, thank you. It's late now, you should go back first." An inexplicable anger surged in his heart. "Do you think I can leave at this time?" So what if she relied on him a little? Xia Dong bit her lip and didn't say anything else. She was afraid that she would become more greedy for his warmth and hurt his heart. She had already caused enough trouble and didn't want to add another one. They sat quietly in the corridor. Even though they didn't speak, Xia Dong's heart calmed down a lot. After some time, the door of the emergency room finally opened and the doctor walked out. Xia Dong hurriedly went up to him and Bailey Han followed closely behind. "Doctor, how's my daughter?" The doctor's gaze fell on the two of them. "The patient is out of danger, but she's still in a high fever and her respiratory tract is infected. We're already thinking of ways to control her condition. Doctor, please save my daughter." Because she had always been careful in the past, even though Xiao Guai's health was poor, he had never been infected. Once she heard that Xiao Guai had a respiratory infection and a high temperature, Xia Dong panicked. "Don't worry. Your daughter's current situation is already considered relatively good among the similar diseases. Trust us, there will be a way to control her infection." "Thank you, doctor, thank you." Xiao Guai was sent to the isolation ward. After Xia Dong and Bailey Han disinfected themselves, they put on isolation suits, masks, and gloves before they were allowed to enter the ward. Her face was pale. She was lying in a pile of instruments, and there was a thin tube in her nose. Xia Dong felt distressed when she saw it. She blamed herself. If she hadn't gone downstairs to see Bailey Yun, if she had stayed by her daughter's side, her daughter might not have had a fever. Bailey Han patted her shoulder. When they came out of the isolation ward, Bailey Han's expression was grave. "What illness does Xiao Guai have?" From the conversation between the doctor and Xia Dong, he had already guessed that Xiao Guai's illness was not simple. "It's just ordinary anemia." Xia Dong didn't dare to tell him the truth for fear of arousing his suspicion. He naturally didn't believe it. Although he wasn't a doctor, he knew that ordinary anemia couldn't have such serious symptoms. Her refusal to tell him the truth made him very angry. But she didn't have time to care. Looking at her watch, it was already past 10 o'clock. She said, "I'm going to make a call." She took out her phone and walked to the end of the corridor to call Lu Xing. She told him about Xiao Guai's illness and that she would be at the hospital to accompany Xiao Guai. She also asked him and Suzaku not to worry and asked him to come to her house to take care of Xiao Bao. When she came back after the call, Bailey Han was nowhere to be seen. She thought that he had already gone back, but she didn't expect him to come back a few minutes later. He said lightly, "I've already asked the nurse, miss, to arrange for someone to take care of you. You can go home and rest tonight." "Thank you, but I'm worried." "I'll stay too." He grabbed her wrist and his handsome face was cold. "Have you forgotten that you're pregnant? If something happens to you, who will take care of Xiao Guai?" She was stunned and couldn't refute him. "You have nothing to say. Very well, I'll take you home now." He grabbed her wrist and dragged her forward. She quickly grabbed onto the bench. "Wait a minute, I want to see Xiao Guai again." He let go of her hand. She stood in front of the window of the isolation ward and looked at her daughter who was still unconscious through the glass. She prayed silently in her heart that her daughter would be able to get through the night safely, that her body temperature would drop quickly, and that her respiratory infection would be controlled quickly. "Okay, let's go." She was afraid that the more she looked at her daughter, the more reluctant she would be to leave. She steeled her heart and turned to leave. It was already 11 o'clock when they arrived downstairs. Bailey Han insisted on taking her upstairs. Standing at the door, she took out the key to open the door. Just as she put the key in, the door was opened by someone from inside. Lu Xing stood in front of them expressionlessly. His eyes were cold and murderous through his thick lenses and sharp as a knife as he glanced at Bailey Han. His whole body was emitting a signal. "How dare you steal boss's woman? You don't want to live anymore." Bailey Han completely ignored him and said goodbye to Xia Dong calmly. "Be careful on the road." Xia Dong watched Bailey Han enter the elevator and glared at Lu Xing. "Lu Xing, do you have to be so obvious?" "Am I?" Lu Xing's tone was indifferent. "I think my expression is very normal." "Your expression is very normal because you've always been expressionless. But your eyes are about to freeze." Xia Dong was speechless. "Do you hate Bailey Han that much?" Lu Xing said indifferently, "If I liked him, things would be serious." "Lu Xing, so you also know how to joke. Be careful that no girl likes you when you're always so cold. Lu Xing's mouth twitched. No, I'm very popular in Japan. A flock of crows flew over Xia Dong's head. Sure enough, she shouldn't have had too high expectations for Lu Xing's humor. Xia Dong scratched her head. You can sleep on the sofa tonight. You don't mind, right? Yes, sure. Xia Dong ran into the room, took a clean blanket and pillow, and laid them on the sofa. It seemed that she had to prepare a simple single bed in case of emergencies. Xia Dong rushed to the hospital early in the morning. The prenatal checkup that was originally scheduled for the morning was postponed to the afternoon. Xiao Guai hadn't woken up yet, but the doctor said that her body temperature had dropped last night. Other than a respiratory infection, there were no other symptoms for the time being. Xia Dong was so excited that she kept thanking the doctor. After more than half an hour, Yisiki also arrived at the hospital with a thermos of chicken soup in her hand. Why did you make chicken soup? Xiao Guai hasn't woken up yet. She can't eat it now. Yisiki scooped a small bowl with a spoon and handed it to her. This is for you. You were worried about Xiao Guai, so you definitely didn't eat well. You can take it, but the baby can't. Quick, drink it while it's hot. Holding the warm chicken soup in her hand, the room was filled with the fragrance of chicken soup. Xia Dong was very touched. After drinking the soup, Xia Dong said, Yesterday, it was Bailey Han who sent Xiao Guai and I to the hospital. I'm a little worried that he will find out about Xiao Guai's illness. Why don't you just tell him the truth? Seeing them so conflicted, Yisiki felt tired for them. How can I do that? If the old madam finds out, she'll eat me up. Xia Dong was scared when she thought about the scene back then. When will you stop being like this? Can you hide it from him forever? I'll hide it for a while. When the baby is born and Xiao Guai's illness is cured, I'll leave City A. By then, the truth won't matter anymore. Xia Dong leaned back in her chair and chuckled softly. I realize that I'm like a frightened bird now. As long as there's even the slightest movement, I'm worried that the truth will be revealed. Yisiki hit the nail on the head. But Bailey Han's feelings for you seem to be getting deeper and deeper. What do you plan to do about it? She laughed. What do you think I'm best at? Yisiki rolled his eyes. Running away. Whenever she encountered relationship problems, Xia Dong would run away. Yisiki was really speechless with her. Just as they said this, Xia Dong's cell phone rang. It was Bailey Han. How is Xiao Guai now? She's much better. Thank you for your concern. I'll visit her after work tonight. Okay, sorry to trouble you. Every sentence was very polite, as if she was chatting with a stranger. Bailey Han frowned. You take care of yourself too. Okay, I know. After the call ended, Yisiki looked helpless. He was right. Bailey Han was getting more and more attentive to Xia Xia. It was a pity that Xia Xia wasn't willing to give him any response. Yisiki sat for a while longer. Xia Dong urged her to go home, saying that her daughter was also home alone. Xia Dong walked Yisiki to the elevator. When the elevator doors opened, she bumped into someone she didn't want to see, Xia Zhensheng. Xia Zhensheng also saw her. The moment the elevator doors closed, he pressed the button and walked out. Xia Dong looked at him coldly. After not seeing him for a few months, he looked even older. He must have been exhausted because of Su Xingqian's matter. Xia, why are you here? Are you sick? Or are the children sick? Xia Zhensheng asked with concern. Xia Dong said indifferently, why are you concerned about me instead of your precious daughter? Xia Zhensheng's expression froze and he squeezed out an ugly smile. Xia, you're also my daughter. Xingqian is now staying in this hospital. I only found out later that Xingqian had done a lot of things to hurt you. Xia, I apologize on her behalf. Xia Dong wanted to laugh. There were so many hospitals in a city, but they just had to stay in one. How much is a caddy for your apology? It's too cheap. I don't care. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. She turned to leave. Xia Xia, he wanted to hold her back, but when his fingers touched her wrist, he was mercilessly flung away. Ad. Songshu 566. Chapter 162. Xia Zhencheng watched as she walked further and further away. In the end, he couldn't help but secretly follow her. In the end, he found that she had stopped in front of the isolation ward. He didn't dare to approach her and could only watch from afar. When she changed into the isolation gown and entered the ward, he acted like a thief and leaned against the wall. He saw his cute little granddaughter lying on the hospital bed, her face pale and weak to the point that it made his heart ache. His phone suddenly rang. Xia Zhencheng hurriedly covered his phone and quickly ran away. He lowered his voice, "Honey. Xia Zhencheng, where are you now? Why haven't you come down after so long?" Su Murong's unhappy voice came from the phone. "I just asked you to come down and get something. You're not happy, are you? Honey, you misunderstood. There were too many people in the elevator, so I waited for a few more minutes." Xia Zhencheng quickly ran to the elevator. When he reached this floor, he quickly pressed the button. "Hurry up and come down." Su Murong didn't wait for his reply and impatiently hung up the phone. Xia Zhencheng ran all the way out of the hospital. In the parking lot outside the hospital, a luxury car was parked. Seeing him appear, the car window slowly rolled down. Su Murong handed a bag of clothes out of the window. She frowned and complained, "This is Xingqian's change of underwear. Give it to the nurse. You knew that I had to go to the company for a meeting, so why didn't you hurry up?" Xia Zhencheng took the bag and smiled, "Okay, I got it. Honey, hurry up and go." Su Xingqian stayed in the VIP ward on the 12th floor. Ever since her face was disfigured, her temper became more and more irritable. She was like a firecracker. As long as someone said something she didn't like, she would fly into a rage. Because of this, Xia Zhencheng had to be careful. He even helped to say a lot of good things to the doctors and nurses. Although her temper was irritable, in front of Su Murong, she was as obedient as before. So every time Su Murong heard Xia Zhencheng say that Su Xingqian's temper became worse, she didn't take it seriously. This only increased Su Xingqian's temper. When Xia Zhencheng returned to the ward, Su Xingqian was throwing a tantrum again. The things on the bedside table were scattered all over the floor. The cause was that Su Xingqian's hair was accidentally hooked by the nurse when she wiped her body. Su Xingqian had her first plastic surgery and her face was wrapped in gauze. She leaned against the bed and pointed at the nurse's nose and scolded her. The nurse's sorry, but she didn't let her. Xia Zhencheng couldn't stand it anymore. He put the bag aside and said, "Xingqian, she didn't do it on purpose. Don't blame her anymore. She didn't do it. Then she did it on purpose to kill me." Xia Zhencheng's suit look, teet, so what if I? Xingqian, of her testes, Su B's not be laughed. Xia Zhencheng immediately shut his mouth. He knew that if he continued to argue, Su Xingqian's mood would only get worse. He waved his hand and called the nurse outside the door. Lowering his voice, he said, "Little Wang, Xingqian's current condition is not good. She often says some unpleasant things. Don't take it to heart." Little Wang had taken care of many patients before and had seen many with bad tempers. However, it was her first time seeing someone like Su Xingqian. She felt wronged. "Mr. Xia, I can't do this job. You should hire someone else." "Little Wang, please be understanding." Xia Zhencheng said some nice words, but Little Wang didn't want to take it anymore. "How about this, Little Wang, I'll give you double your salary. You can hold on a little longer, okay?" Little Wang hesitated. The Su family was already giving her a high nursing fee. If she were to double it, the amount would be considerable. However, with Su Xingqian's temper, after hesitating for a while, she finally nodded her head. Xia Zhencheng breathed a sigh of relief. In this month, Su Xingchen had already angered 2 nurses. If little Wang also quit, he really didn't know where to find such an experienced and good-tempered nurse. After comforting the nurse, Xia Zhencheng returned to the ward. Xingchen, you rest for a while. I'm going out to do something. Didn't you just come downstairs? Su Xingchen had been lying on the bed for a long time. Whenever she saw someone else walking around freely, her heart would burn with anger. I just came downstairs to get your clothes. I'm going out to buy some fruits for you. Okay then. Come back quickly. Xia Zhencheng didn't take the elevator directly to the ground floor. Instead, he stopped on the 7th floor. This was where he met Xia Dong. He wanted to take a few more glances at Xiao Guai. On Xia Dong's side, the situation was a bit complicated. She didn't expect her aunt and uncle to suddenly visit the children at her home. Lu Xing didn't know the situation and directly told them that Xiao Guai was hospitalized. The 2 elders rushed to the hospital. When they saw Xiao Guai in the isolation ward, they immediately thought that Xiao Guai was seriously ill. They didn't believe Xia Dong's words and directly ran to the doctor's office to ask about Xiao Guai's condition. Xia Yun kept wiping her tears. How did this happen? How did Xiao Guai get this kind of illness? Xia Dong comforted, Aunt, don't be sad. Xiao Guai's illness can still be treated. She will definitely get better. Xia Yun's expression suddenly became fierce. Pa! She slapped her on the arm. Xia Dong, you're so capable now, aren't you? Ah! How dare you hide such a big thing from me? If I didn't find out now, how long were you going to hide it from me? Aunt! Xia Dong hugged her arm. Just like when she was young, she softly begged for mercy. Aunt, don't be angry. I just didn't want you and Uncle to worry. It's all my fault. Scold me all you want, but please don't be angry. If you hurt your body, Uncle and I will be heartbroken. You're so glib. Xia Yun angrily poked her forehead with her finger and sighed. I heard from the doctor that Xiao Guai has to undergo an umbilical cord blood transplant. What should we do? Xia Dong leaned over and whispered something in her ear. Xia Yun's expression became even worse. She stared at her in disbelief. You're pregnant. The child is Bailey Han's? Yes. Xia Dong nodded. So, Aunt, don't worry too much. After the baby is born, the doctor can operate on Xiao Guai. How could Xia Yun not be worried? Xiao Guai's matter had been resolved, but Xia Dong had suddenly been promoted from a mother of 2 to a mother of 3. Moreover, she didn't have a husband. What would others think of her? She held Xia Dong's hand tightly. Xia, let's hurry up and find a man to marry. How about Mika Keto? I think he treats you very well. He's been taking care of you all these years in Japan. He knows you very well. Aunt, I've always treated him as an older brother, Xia Dong said helplessly. If her aunt knew that Mika Keto was in the underworld, she definitely wouldn't have said those words. Then I'll use my connections and find someone to introduce you to a blind date. Let's try to get married after the baby is born. Xia Yun was very decisive. She looked up and asked her husband, Gao Mingyuan, honey, are there any male teachers in your school who are around 30 years old who are not married yet? If there are any suitable ones, you can introduce them to Xia. Aunt, Xia Dong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You're dreaming. I'm a mother of 3 now. Who would want me? Child, how can you say that? Xia Yun was very protective. She was unhappy when she heard this. She poked her forehead with her finger. So what if you're a mother of 3? You're so young, beautiful, and capable. Who would dare to dislike you? I'll fight him. Xia Dong quickly hugged her arm. Aunt, let's not rush. Let's not talk about this first. The most important thing now is to treat Xiao Guai's illness. Xia Yun was worried. Xiao Guai's illness is important. Your marriage is also important. Anyway, I want the baby to be born with a father. Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai were born in Japan. It was fine if they didn't have a father, but now the baby in her belly must be born in China. She must find a father for the baby. No matter how Xia Dong tried to persuade her, Xia Yun took this matter to heart. While they were chatting, they found that Xiao Guai in the isolation ward had woken up. They quickly changed into isolation clothes and went to see her. Gigai, you're awake. Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? The three adults surrounded her. Mommy, great-aunt, great-grandpa. Xiao Guai's eyes slid across them. Her big eyes had lost their usual luster. Her pink lips were dry and cracked, and her soft voice was hoarse. Mommy, I feel so uncomfortable. Where do you feel uncomfortable? Tell Mommy. Xia Dong sat by her bed and held her little hand with heartache. My chest hurts. My throat hurts. My head is dizzy, and I want to vomit. Don't be afraid. Great-aunt will call the doctor for you. Xia Yun let Xia Dong stay with the child while she hurried out to call the doctor. Unexpectedly, when she reached the corridor, she saw Xia Zhensheng walking over in a panic. She shouted, Xia Zhensheng. Xia Zhensheng had been peeking outside the isolation ward. He didn't expect Xia Yun to suddenly come out and be caught red-handed. He looked embarrassed. What are you doing here? Are you peeking at Xiao Guai? Xia Yun was angry when she saw him. She said angrily, don't come here again. We don't want to see you again. Xia Yun shouted so loudly that everyone in the room heard it. Xia Dong didn't want to go out and cause trouble for herself. Gao Mingyuan was afraid that Xia Yun and Xia Zhensheng would quarrel, so he said something and went out to persuade them. Wife, this is the hospital. Don't shout so loudly. It's not good to be seen by others. Gao Mingyuan walked to their side. Xia Yun snorted and glared at Xia Zhensheng. Forget it. I don't want to talk nonsense with you now. With that, she went to find the doctor. Xia Zhensheng's old face turned red and white. Gao Mingyuan looked at him. Old Qi, Xiao Guai is seriously ill. Xia Dong and Xia Yun are both upset. It's better if you don't appear in front of them for the time being. Xia Zhensheng looked embarrassed. I know. I just want to know how Xiao Guai is. What illness does she have? Attention, Hengcha 866. Chapter 163. Aplastic anemia. Gao Mingyuan patted him on the shoulder. I know you're not doing well either. I advise you to stay away from us. If the Su family finds out, they won't let you off easily. I understand, I understand. Xia Zhensheng was embarrassed by his words. Xingchen is also staying in this hospital. I'll go up first. Gao Mingyuan couldn't help but sigh as he watched Xia Zhensheng's fleeing figure. He still remembered how Xia Ling and Xia Dong had suffered when Xia Zhensheng abandoned them. He also knew that Xia Zhensheng had secretly helped Xia Ling's small restaurant, but Su Murong soon came looking for them. The next day, a group of hooligans came and smashed Xia Ling's restaurant. He didn't need to guess to know that it was Su Murong's doing. Doctor, please take a look. How is the child now? After a detailed examination, the doctor said, the patient's temperature is normal, and the respiratory infection is under control. There are no other symptoms of infection. Her condition is relatively good. But the child is uncomfortable. Chest pain, throat pain, dizziness, nausea. Her upper respiratory infection is acute pharyngitis and laryngitis. Chest pain and throat pain are normal reactions. Dizziness and nausea are also symptoms of aplastic anemia. The doctor explained in detail and said, I'll prescribe some medicine for her to relieve her current symptoms. Thank you, doctor. After the doctor left, Xiao Guai lay weakly and pitifully, looking at Xia Dong with teary eyes. Mommy, it's all my fault. Gigai, what's wrong? Xia Dong stroked her hair. I really want to eat ice cream, but mommy and brother won't let me eat it. Mommy wasn't home last night, so I ate ice cream without telling brother. It was because Xiao Guai ate ice cream that she got a fever. Xia Dong hugged her, her heart full of guilt. If she had been at home with the child, this wouldn't have happened. Big drops of tears rolled down from Xiao Guai's eyes. She sobbed, "Mommy, it's all my fault." "It's okay, it's okay. Gigai, don't cry," Xia Dong coaxed her gently. "Gigai will get better soon, but you can't eat ice cream anymore." "Okay, I won't eat it anymore." Xiao Guai nodded sensibly. After lunch, Xia Dong went to the People's Hospital for a checkup. Xia Yun went home to make soup for Xiao Guai while Gao Mingyuan stayed at the hospital to take care of her. After the prenatal checkup, Lin Shihao said that both the fetus and the mother were healthy. Xia Dong hesitated for a moment and asked, "Shihao, I want to know if the medicine has any effect on the child. When will it be tested?" From the 16th to the 20th week of pregnancy, you can perform an examination for abnormalities. Through the Tang screening, you can screen the development of the fetus's neural tube. At around the 24th week, you can perform a three-dimensional ultrasound to observe whether the general structure of the limbs and organs is deformed. Xia Dong took note of the time seriously. Lin Shihao said, "How is Xiao Guai now?" Xia Dong repeated what the doctor said. Lin Shihao comforted her. "She'll be fine after the infection is controlled. Don't worry too much." "Okay, I'm fine. Go on with your work. I won't disturb you anymore." Xia Dong smiled. Someone knocked on the office door. Lin Shihao said, "Come in." Bai Meiwei walked in with a cup of coffee. She placed the coffee on Lin Shihao's desk and said with a smile, "I bought coffee just now, and I bought a cup for you too. I know you like black coffee without sugar." Lin Shihao smiled. "Thank you." Xia Dong recognized Bai Meiwei. She was the woman who sat in Lin Shihao's car that day. "Okay, senior, I won't disturb you anymore." Bai Meiwei's gaze fell on Xia Dong. She nodded politely and walked out of the office. "I should get going too." "Shihao, sorry to trouble you." "You don't have to be so polite." Lin Shihao walked her to the door of the office. Bailey Han got off work early and drove to the hospital to visit Xiao Guai. Yi Siki was also there. Xia Dong was feeding Xiao Guai food. Through the glass, he saw her patiently feeding Xiao Guai a spoonful of soup. Then she used a tissue to wipe away the soup stains on her lips. Yi Siki walked up to him. "Bailey Han, I want to talk to you." They were sitting in the corridor. The door to the isolation ward was closed, so their voices couldn't be heard. Yi Siki looked up at the glass window. Xia Dong was focused on feeding Xiao Guai and didn't notice them. She lowered her voice and said, "Do you really like Xia Dong?" She thought he wouldn't answer, but to her surprise, he answered with a serious yes. Yi Siki smiled. "Will you despise her because she's an unwed mother?" He frowned. No. He was an unwed father himself, wasn't he? "If, and I'm saying if, Xia likes you too, will you marry her?" Bailey Han's gaze was deep and penetrating. "Miss Yi, what are you trying to say?" Yi Siki smiled. "Don't get so agitated. I just want Xia to be happy." Bailey Han's gaze froze. He said calmly, "She has Mika Keto now. They're already engaged." Yi Siki retorted sharply, "You and Su Yunqian were also engaged. Are you two together now?" Bailey Han's face darkened. "She's pregnant with Mika Keto's child." Yi Siki sneered. "So you keep saying that you won't despise her child, but in the end, you're still despising the baby in her belly. Forget it. Forget what I said." She got up and was about to leave when Bailey Han's calm voice came from behind. "What I really mind is that she loves Mika Keto. If it wasn't love, why would she be pregnant with his child?" Yi Siki's back was facing him, and her lips curved into a satisfied smile. She turned around and looked at him quietly. What if I say that she doesn't love Mikakito? Would you be willing to marry her? He didn't answer, but she could see his answer from his resolute gaze. She smiled and sat back down beside him. She said softly, Bailey-han, I'm only going to tell you this once. Listen carefully. Xia and Mikakito are only pretending to be engaged. The child in Xia's belly isn't Mikakito's. She's not a fickle woman. As for whose child it is, don't tell me you still don't know. Bailey-han felt a gush of hot air rush to his head. He was completely stunned. The thoughts that popped into his head were driving him crazy. His heart was pounding like a war drum. He almost wanted to rush in and interrogate that little woman who was full of lies. His deep eyes were filled with coldness as he stared fixedly at the glass window. His gaze was like an icicle piercing into Xia Dong's body. She actually had a fake engagement with Mikakito. The child in her belly was really his, but she lied and said that it was Mikakito's. Damn it, how could he fall for such a liar? But he deserved to die for liking her. Bailey-han clenched his fists. He wanted to beat himself up. Yi Siki smirked. You should keep these things to yourself. If you interrogate Xia, she will never admit it. Also, don't rat me out. Otherwise, I won't help you anymore. His voice was filled with suppressed anger. What else do you know? Whose children are Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao? Yi Siki shrugged. I won't say another word about them. If you're interested, you can check it out yourself. She muttered in her heart, Xia, don't blame me. I'm just thinking about your lifelong happiness. Yi Siki continued, don't blame me for not reminding you. Mikakito will be back in a month at most. When that time comes, it will be much harder for you to pursue Xia. So you'd better take action now. He frowned. Okay, I'm going back now. You can keep her company. Yi Siki bid farewell to Xia Dong and Xiao Guai and left the hospital. Bailey-han changed into his isolation suit. Xiao Guai had already finished eating and was lying quietly in bed, listening to Xia Dong tell her a story. Seeing him, Xiao Guai was very happy. Her beautiful eyes curved into cute crescents as she said softly, Uncle Bailey, I'm so happy to see you. Bailey-han's eyes were full of smiles as he said gently, why? Xiao Guai giggled. Because you're as handsome as Uncle Shen. Gigai, you're such a love-struck fool. Xia Dong pinched her little nose in annoyance. It was just a childish remark, but Bailey-han took it seriously. He sat on the chair beside her bed and expressed his opinion seriously. I'm more handsome than your Uncle Shen, right, Xia Dong? There was a mischievous look in his eyes as he waited for her answer. Xia Dong was speechless. You're both very handsome. Are you happy now? She had never seen such a narcissistic person. No, Uncle Shen is more handsome. Xiao Guai pouted unhappily. In her heart, Uncle Shen was closer to her, so she had to defend Uncle Shen, even though Uncle Bailey was actually a little more handsome than Uncle Shen. Xia Dong poked Bailey-han's arm and smiled mischievously. See, Xiao Guai doesn't agree with your opinion. It's okay. No matter what Xiao Guai says, it's always right. Bailey-han didn't mind at all. There was a doting look in his eyes as he smiled and stroked Xiao Guai's hair. However, he didn't expect that a gentle touch would cause him to remove several strands of hair. He had a bad feeling in his heart. He calmly hid the strands of hair in his palm and smiled as if nothing had happened. Gigai, Uncle will bring Brother Yi to see you tomorrow, okay? Okay. Xiao Guai's eyes sparkled. She suddenly turned her gaze to Xia Dong. Mommy, let brother come over too. The three of us can play together, okay? Okay, Mommy will bring brother over tomorrow. After chatting for a while, Xiao Guai was tired. Xia Dong sang a nursery rhyme to coax her to sleep. After she fell asleep, they quietly left. Bailey Han stretched his arm in front of her and opened his palm. What's going on? Ad, Songshu 566. Chapter 164. Xia Dong looked at the hair in his hand and her heart tightened. She said bitterly, she's anemic and doesn't have enough blood, so her hair loss is more serious. Even if she's anemic, her hair loss shouldn't be this serious. He held the hair in his hand and looked at her deeply. Xia Dong, don't lie to me anymore. What illness does Xiao Guai have? Xia Dong gritted her teeth. Anemic. Bailey Han's face darkened. It's okay if you don't want to tell me. I can ask the doctor. You're not the patient's family. You have no right to get the patient's condition from the doctor. I have many ways to get the doctor to tell me. She sat on the bench and covered her face with both hands. Her voice was tired. Bailey Han, don't force me. I'm not forcing you. I just want to know the truth. He just wanted to enter her life and understand her better. But I don't want to say it. I beg you, leave me some dignity, okay? She suddenly looked up at him. Her beautiful face and beautiful eyes were covered with a layer of mist. His heart softened. She wanted freedom, so he gave her freedom. She wanted dignity, so he gave it to her. However, she was the woman he liked. Even if he had to go to the ends of the earth, he would not let go. He did not continue the previous topic. You're tired. I'll take you home. Xia Dong heaved a sigh of relief. She took one last look at Xiao Guai and Gi Gai followed him home. Bailey Han drove seriously and stared ahead. He said lightly, Ah Yun has decided to go to America. Xia Dong was shocked. America? Why? He said he's going to America to start a business. After Bailey Yun's last confession failed, he went to Charm Club and got drunk. He slept at home for a day and then suddenly announced to his family that he was going to America to start a business. Only Bailey Han knew the real reason. He had been rejected by Xia Dong, so he hid abroad to recuperate. As for starting a business, Bailey Han had reservations. Xia Dong fell silent. She guessed that Bailey Yun went abroad because she rejected him. After Bailey Han sent Xia Dong home, he sat for a while before leaving. When Xia Dong walked him to the door, he suddenly said, I want to touch your belly. Ah. Let me feel the baby, he said seriously. Xia Dong blushed. She grabbed his outstretched hand and placed it on her abdomen. She said softly, it's only 3 months. I can't feel the fetal movement. Her abdomen was slightly protruding. When he placed his hand on it, there was a strange feeling. His expression was calm, but his heart was in turmoil. He couldn't help but be excited. That was his child. Even though the child hadn't moved yet, he had a feeling that it was his flesh and blood. He suddenly pulled her into his arms and said hoarsely, take good care of the baby. She was at a loss. Yes, I will. Okay, I'm leaving. He stroked her hair gently and looked at her abdomen with a tender gaze. His warm gaze made Xia Dong feel uneasy. Could it be that he had found out something? No, that's impossible. If he knew that the baby was his, he wouldn't be so calm. Yes, that's right. It was already past 10 o'clock. Xia Dong was still hesitating whether she should call Bailey Yun to ask about the situation. However, she had just rejected him. If she contacted him now, it would be like rubbing salt on his wound. Bailey Han's words before he left suddenly appeared in her mind. His flight is tomorrow at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He might not be back for a few years. After this parting, they would not see each other for a few years, and she had always treated Bailey Yun as a very important friend. Xia Dong hesitated for a while, but in the end, she still dialed his number. The call went through, but the person on the other end was silent. She said embarrassedly, Fox, it's me. I heard that you're going to America. Bailey Yun tightened his grip on the phone, the veins on the back of his hand popping out. However, His voice sounded casual. Yes, my flight is tomorrow at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. She bit her lip, not knowing what to say. It was as if she was worried that she would hurt him. In the end, he spoke first. Xia Xia, if I were as capable and powerful as Mikakito, would you be with me? Xia Dong was silent for a long time. Fox, I treat you as a good brother. I understand. He chuckled softly. She couldn't see the broken light in his eyes. Will you come to send me off tomorrow? I'm sorry, Xiao Guai is sick. I have to take care of her at the hospital. Fox, I wish you a safe journey. Xia Dong used all her strength to say this. Her heart felt as if it was being grabbed by a large hand, painful and suffocating. Since she didn't love him, she shouldn't give him any more hope. City A's International Airport. The afternoon sun was scorching. It shone through the glass windows onto the ground of the departure hall, casting a white shadow. Bailey's family members were all sending Bailey Yun off in the airport hall. Bailey Yun smiled and said goodbye to them one by one. He seemed to have matured overnight. The smile on his face was no longer as unrestrained as before. Instead, it had a sense of stability. He squatted down and stroked Xiao Yi's head. Xiao Yi, second uncle is leaving now. If you have any problems chasing girls in the future, you can look for me anytime. Xiao Yi's eyes were red. She puffed up her cheeks sternly. Second uncle, the next time you come back from America, you have to bring me a little ant. Otherwise, I'll despise you. Oh, you still dare to despise me? We'll talk about it when you're older. Bailey Yun smiled and gestured at his waist. Ah Yun, take good care of yourself when you're in America. Don't make me and your mommy worry anymore. Although Bailey Yun was a playboy, Bailey Xiong still liked him the most. His eyes were red as he reminded him. I know, Daddy. You have to take good care of yourself too. Bai Jinxiu didn't come. Bailey Han patted him on the shoulder. If you have any difficulties, remember to look for me. Bailey Yun grinned. Brother, I've caused you a lot of trouble since I was young. I'll try my best not to cause you any more trouble in the future. Before leaving, old Madam, who had always disliked him, also said a few words of comfort. Ah Yun, it seems that you're really sensible. We don't expect you to create a big career. As long as you're safe and sound outside and don't cause trouble, we'll be satisfied. If you have any difficulties, just tell us. No matter what, we'll always be a family. Bailey Yun hugged her. Thank you, Grandma. It was time to board the plane, but the person he wanted to see the most still didn't come. Bailey Yun's lips curled up mockingly. He shouldn't have had any expectations a long time ago, right? 5 years ago, he returned to the country in a carefree manner. 5 years later, he left sadly. The only thing that didn't leave him was the small boarding box in his hand. He didn't have any big luggage. Dragging the small boarding box, he took one last look at the city and the entire departure hall. Then, he waved to his family, raised a bright smile, and embarked on a new journey in life. His back disappeared in a bright light and disappeared at the boarding gate. Xia Dong hid behind the shelves of the convenience store in the airport, tears streaming down her face. Suzaku stood behind her and handed her a tissue. She said lightly, Bailey's family has left. Okay, thank you. Xia Dong took the tissue and wiped the tears on her face awkwardly. You're already at the airport. Why don't you go see him? Suzaku talked about this matter in a tone that sounded like she was talking about the weather. Let him leave without any expectations. Only then will he start a new life, right? Xia Dong had already sorted herself out, but her eyes were a little red. Suzaku narrowed her eyes. I don't understand. Maybe he already doesn't have any hope. What he wants is for you to send him off as a friend. But now, he's obviously very disappointed. Xia Dong was startled. If Suzaku was right, then didn't she break Bailey Yun's heart? On the plane, as soon as Bailey Yun sat in his seat, he tightly covered his face. His shoulders trembled slightly, and a weak choking sound came from his throat. "Sir, are you okay?" the beautiful stewardess asked with concern. Bailey Yun maintained this posture and didn't answer. Only the arc of his shoulders gradually became smaller. "Sir?" the stewardess called out again, but there was still no response. She took a tissue, bent down and handed it to Bailey Yun's fingers, and said softly, "Sir, don't be sad. Parting is for a better meeting." Her soft voice crashed into Bailey Yun's pained heart. He slowly took the tissue from her hand and said with a hoarse voice, "Thank you." "You're welcome." The stewardess smiled sweetly and walked to the next passenger. When he raised his head, he only saw a pretty figure. When they got off the plane, a stewardess stood at the exit of the cabin and politely bowed to every passenger. "Sir, please take care. Thank you for taking this flight." Bailey Yun, who had already stepped out, retracted his foot, took off his sunglasses, and carefully sized up the stewardess. She was very cute, with a round apple face, big watery eyes, and a kind smile. "Sir, is there anything else?" Bailey Yun raised his eyebrows. He recognized her voice. It was the stewardess who comforted him on the plane. He took out a red velvet box from his pocket and stuffed it into her hand. "This is for you." The stewardess's eyes widened in surprise. Her expression was very similar to someone's. "Thank you, but we have a rule that we can't accept gifts from passengers." She wanted to return the box to him, but he waved his hand. "I've already given it to you. If you don't like it, then throw it away." He strode away, leaving her in a daze. Another passenger walked over. She quickly regained her senses and bowed politely. "Madam, please take care. Thank you for taking this flight." "Duobao, what did that person give you just now? Quickly open it and see." A colleague witnessed this scene. After the cabin was empty, he went up to her and gossiped. "I don't know either." Li Duobao was very innocent. She didn't understand why that stranger forced something on her. "Open it and see." Her colleague Su Qing snatched the box from her hand and opened it. He was stunned. "What a beautiful bracelet. This is Cartier's rose gold bracelet. From the looks of it, it should be specially custom-made. Ah, there are words behind it. Summer star. What does it mean?" Li Duobao's delicate nose wrinkled. She suddenly thought of something. Maybe it's the name of his beloved. Loved one. N. Li Duobao nodded heavily. "I remember now. Before the plane took off, I saw a man with his head lowered. He seemed to be crying. I took a tissue to comfort him. That man's hairstyle and clothes were exactly the same as the man who gave me the bracelet just now. I think he might be sad because he was separated from the person he loves." Bai Li Yun had a head full of golden hair. It was really too easy to recognize him. "Oh my God, just because you comforted him, he gave you such a valuable bracelet?" Su Qing wanted to cry. Why didn't such a good thing happen to him? Li Duobao's cute apple face collapsed. "But I can't accept it. How can I return it to him?" Su Qing shrugged with an expression that said, "You can find out his identity through the registration list. But Miss Li Duobao, don't forget that this flight is to New York. Even if you're looking for a needle in a haystack, you won't be able to fish him out." "That's true." Hua, Li Duobao's little face wrinkled. "But even if it's hard to find him, I'll still find him." Su Qing shouted exaggeratedly, "Anyway, he gave it to you willingly. Just accept it." "Why do you have to find trouble?" "Because I don't deserve it. I won't be able to sleep with this thing." Li Duobao sighed. "Besides, this is a gift that he intends to give to his beloved. What's the matter with me accepting it?" She had already made up her mind to keep the bracelet well. As long as she found that man, she would return it to him. Bailey Yun walked out of the airport. It was morning in New York. The city was bustling with people and no one would stop to look at him. He swore that he would let everyone in this city know his name within a year. Linny once asked him why he didn't stay in a city if he was determined to develop his career. It was the place where he grew up. He could also get the protection of his family. He replied that he wanted to be like Bailey Han. He wanted to use his own ability to make the people in Bailey's family look at him in a different light. He wanted to make her look at him in a different light. But at that time, he didn't know that Xia Dong wouldn't wait for him for a year. The thing that Su Yunqian was worried about finally happened. She went to visit the old madam. The old madam's attitude towards her suddenly became lukewarm. Bai Jinxiu, who had always loved her, also distanced herself from her. Su Yunqian knew that her plan was exposed. Seeing that the situation wasn't right, she immediately changed. Tears poured out of her eyes and she said in a sobbing voice, "Grandma, Mommy Bai, I'm here today to apologize." The old madam said faintly, "Why do you say that?" "Grandma, I know that I'm wrong about pretending to be pregnant. But that's because I love Han too much," Su Yunqian said as she wiped her tears. Her pitiful look was really beautiful. "Grandma, you know how Han treats Xia Dong. I'm afraid that he will be taken away by Xia Dong. I'm also worried that he will remember the past because of Xia Dong. His head." Ad. Hengcha 866. Chapter 165. Her crying stopped just in time. Old Madame Dowager frowned. That was exactly what she was worried about. However, what Su Yunqian did challenged her bottom line. She would never forgive her. Bai Jinxiu's heart softened when she saw Su Yunqian crying so hard. She said to Old Madame Dowager, "Mom, what Yunqian said makes sense." Old Madame Dowager said coldly, "Let's just forget about this." "Yunqian, why did you hurt Xiao Yi?" "Grandma, I didn't do it on purpose. You have to believe me." That night, when little Wingzi told me about his godfather, I was very surprised. I wanted to cover his mouth to stop him from yelling, but he struggled and rolled down the stairs. "Grandma, I'm sorry for Xiao Yi. After that, I was too scared to tell you." "I'm sorry." Su Yunqian covered her mouth and cried bitterly. Old Madame Dowager looked at her coldly. "Why were you so panicked when you heard about Godfather?" Because. Su Yunqian looked embarrassed. "It's fine if you don't want to say it. I'm tired anyway." Old Madame Dowager took her walking stick and gestured for her to leave. Su Yunqian hurriedly said, "Grandma, listen to me. Godfather is the middleman of the killer organization in a city. Xingqian once contacted him to contact killers to kidnap Xia Dong. That's why I know about Godfather." Old Madame Dowager frowned. "Kidnap Xia Dong? What's going on?" Su Yunqian had already planned it out. She told Old Madame Dowager how Suzaku and White Tiger kidnapped Xia Dong, and how Su Xingqian became the mastermind behind the scenes. In short, there was only one central idea. All the bad things were done by Su Xingqian, and it had nothing to do with her. Old Madame Dowager's eyes were sharp. "Xiao Yi said that she heard Godfather talking to you on the phone. Since you have nothing to do with this, why did Godfather contact you?" "Grandma, I only found out about this later. Godfather is Xingqian's godfather. I was the one who showed evidence that Xingqian was the mastermind behind all this. Godfather naturally hated me. He threatened me and asked me to take responsibility for Xingqian's crimes. I didn't agree, so he said he would teach me a lesson." It sounded reasonable, and even Bai Jinxiu began to believe what she said. Old Madame Dowager was also a little shaken. But no matter what, she couldn't forgive Su Yunqian for hurting Xiao Yi. Even if she said that she didn't do it on purpose and gave a good reason, Old Madame Dowager was extremely protective. She couldn't accept that Su Yunqian didn't immediately stand up and admit her mistake because she was afraid. Old Madame Dowager paused and said, "Yunqian, I've tried to persuade Ahan, but he's stubborn. I can't do anything about it. I don't want to ask about the relationship between the two of you. I'll let you deal with it yourselves. Su Yunxian gritted her teeth and could only agree. Okay. I'm tired. I'm going upstairs to rest. Since you're here, stay for lunch. It's okay, Grandma. I'll go back first. Have a good rest. Mommy, bye, I'll leave first. Su Yunxian knew that it was impossible to change their opinion of her in a short time, so she knew when to advance and when to retreat. Bai Jinxiu's attitude towards her was much gentler. She said, Yunxian, let me walk you out. Su Yunxian quickly said, Mommy Bai, you don't have to be so polite. Let's go. Bai Jinxiu gave her a look, hinting that she had something to say to her. The two walked out of the living room hand in hand. Bai Jinxiu whispered, Yunxian, little Jing is coming back. Old Madame Dowager listens to little Jing the most. When the time comes, ask little Jing to put in a good word for you. Su Yunxian was delighted. Thank you, Mommy Bai. I know what to do. The little Jing that Bai Jinxiu was talking about was Bailey Han's younger sister, Bailey Jing. She was also the only little princess in the family. She had been doted on by the whole family since she was young. Like Bailey Yi, she was old Madame Dowager's favorite person. Su Yunxian drove out of the Bailey mansion. She slowly came up with a plan in her heart. She didn't go to the company, but directly drove to the hospital where Su Xingqian was. China's extensive and profound cultural heritage had a saying, enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Su Yunxian felt that this saying was made for her and Xia Dong. Su Yunxian stood at the innermost part of the elevator. The moment the elevator closed, Xia Dong pressed the elevator button and walked in. However, Xia Dong didn't see her. Xia Dong walked out of the elevator on the 7th floor. Su Yunxian's brows furrowed and a trace of calculation flashed across her eyes. Uncle, I'm here to see Xingqian. Su Yunxian pushed the door open and entered. Xia Zhensheng was peeling fruit for Su Xingqian. Xia Zhensheng hurriedly gave up his seat. Yunxian, you're here. You guys chat first. I'll go out for a while. When Su Xingqian saw Su Yunxian, his temper rushed up. He said sarcastically, My dear cousin, don't you feel sick of seeing me make a fool of myself every few days? Only the two of them were left in the ward. Su Yunxian didn't have to pretend anymore. She smiled faintly. Sick of it? Why would I be sick of it? On the other hand, Xingqian, I heard that your temper is getting worse and worse. You even drove away a few nurses in anger. Your current state will only make the person who harmed you more excited. Su Xingqian sneered. Aren't you the one who harmed me? Su Yunxian ran her fingers through her hair and smiled brightly. Every injustice has its perpetrator and every debt has its debtor. Even if you want to take revenge, you should know who your opponent is. To tell you the truth, I've already broken up with Han. Right now, Xia Dong is the biggest winner. Do you still want to fight with me and let her reap the benefits? Su Xingqian questioned, Do you think I'll believe your words? Su Yunxian retorted. You've already become like this. What's the point of lying to you? Su Xingqian was so angry that he almost broke his teeth. His head was wrapped in gauze, revealing only a pair of eyes filled with hatred. She said coldly, Don't think that I can't do anything to you just because I've become like this. Su Yunxian shrugged. Of course not. I know you have a very powerful godfather. She smiled lightly. Xingqian, I'm here to tell you a piece of good news. What good news can you have? She smiled mysteriously. Bailey Jing is coming back. Don't you think that's good news? Su Xingqian's eyes lit up. Bailey Jing grew up with him. Their relationship was very good. At least, in Bailey Jing's eyes, that was the case. Bailey Jing had a lot of authority in the Bailey family. If she was willing to help him, Su Xingqian couldn't help but clench his fists. Su Yunxian saw his reaction and laughed softly. I just saw Xia Dong on the 7th floor of the inpatient department. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. Why is she here? I don't know. I'll leave first. Have a good rest. Su Yunqian achieved her goal and didn't stay any longer. Su Yunqian's words were like stones, causing 1,000 ripples in Su Xingqian's heart. Her hatred for Xia Dong increased day by day after her disfigurement. She wanted to know everything related to her. Su Xingqian found an excuse to send Xia Zhenqing away. Then, with a head full of gauze, he took the elevator to the 7th floor. She searched ward by ward and finally saw Xia Dong outside the isolation ward. She was playing with Xiao Guai. The mother and daughter were laughing happily. Su Xingqian couldn't wait to rush in and strangle them. In the evening, Su Murong came to visit Su Xingqian after work. Su Xingqian secretly told Su Murong about Xia Dong's daughter being hospitalized. Su Murong advised her not to act rashly, but Su Xingqian didn't give up. She had already found out that Xia Dong would leave the hospital every night after coaxing Xiao Guai to sleep. The best way to make Xia Dong suffer was to hurt the person she cared about the most. Su Xingqian's heart was twisted. As long as she thought about taking revenge on Xia Dong, she was filled with energy. At 8:00 in the evening, Bailey Han came to visit Xiao Guai. The two of them stayed in the ward to accompany Xiao Guai. Su Xingqian, who was secretly observing from outside the ward, had accumulated the hatred in her heart to its peak. It surged and howled, looking for an outlet to vent. When Xiao Guai fell asleep, Bailey Han sent Xia Dong home. The corridor was full of patients with bandages wrapped around their heads, but they didn't care. On the 12th floor, in the VIP ward, Su Xingqian's caregiver, Xiao Wang, found that Su Xingqian was missing. He searched the entire floor but couldn't find her. He anxiously called Su Murong to report. At this time, Su Murong and Xia Zhenqing had just returned home from the hospital. When they heard that Su Xingqian was missing, they hurriedly drove to the hospital. On the other side, Su Xingqian didn't go through any sterilization or protective measures. She quietly entered Xiao Guai's ward. After entering, she pulled down the curtain of the isolation ward. Under the dim light, Xiao Guai was lying quietly, fast asleep. Su Xingqian sneered. She took out a pair of white gloves from the pocket of her hospital gown and put them on. She slowly stretched out her hand, took a pillow, and covered Xiao Guai's face with it. Her hands fiercely pressed down on the pillow. Xiao Guai's entire face was covered by the pillow. Her breathing was difficult. In her sleep, her two legs kicked wildly, her hands flailed wildly, and she fiercely struggled. Her small and weak body writhed in pain under the blanket, letting out a painful, woo-woo, sound. It was as if Su Xingqian had been injected with chicken blood. Her entire body was boiling with passion, and the feeling of revenge attacked her brain. She grinned and squeezed the pillow even harder. Xiao Guai's painful groans became softer and softer, and her struggling movements became weaker and weaker. At this time, the ward's door was suddenly opened. A figure flew over, grabbed Su Xingqian, and pulled her back a few steps. Su Murong rushed over. Her face was full of anger. She lowered her voice and said, "You're crazy. Come with me." "No, I'm not going, I'm going to kill her." Success was in the blink of an eye. How could she give up? Pa! Su Murong fiercely slapped her on the head. She suppressed her anger and roared, "Su Xingqian, stop messing around, come with me." Su Xingqian was stunned. Mommy actually hit her. Su Murong removed the pillow from Xiao Guai's face and casually threw it on a chair. She bent down to check Xiao Guai's breathing. She quickly grabbed Xiao Guai's wrist and dragged her out of the ward. The two of them looked like they were being chased by a monster. They hurriedly returned to the 12th floor. "Xingqian, where did you go?" "Your mommy and I were worried to death." Xia Zhenqing and Su Murong split up to look for Su Xingqian's whereabouts. When they heard that Su Murong had found her, they hurriedly rushed back from the upper floor. "Hubby, Xingqian couldn't sleep, so she went downstairs for a walk." Look at you sweating so much. Hurry and go wash up. Su Murong considerately handed a towel to Xia Zhensheng and pushed him into the bathroom. Only the mother and daughter were left in the room. Su Murong coldly said, Xingchen, come with me. Su Xingchen knew that she was angry, so she didn't dare to say anything. She silently followed her out the door and to the rooftop. Pa! Su Murong slapped Su Xingchen's head. It looked fierce, but it avoided the wound on her face. Mommy. Su Xingchen touched her head with tears in her eyes. Don't call me mommy. I don't have a daughter as stupid as you. Su Murong was so angry that her whole body trembled. She pointed at her daughter's nose and said angrily, Su Xingchen, you used to be quite smart. How did you become an idiot now? Do you think that you can get revenge on Xia Dong just because you killed Xiao Guai? Have you ever thought that you're a criminal now? If you add the crime of intentional homicide, even if I'm the king of heaven, I won't be able to save your life. Mommy, I am wearing gloves. They won't leave any fingerprints. Also, no one knows that I entered Xiao Guai's room. They'll definitely treat it as a medical accident. Did your head get caught in the door? Su Murong wanted to pry open her daughter's head to see what was inside. If you think that no one knows that you entered Xiao Guai's room, then how do you explain that you went missing for more than an hour? Let me tell you, when everyone finds out about the grudge between you and Xia Dong, you'll be the #1 suspect. When Su Murong heard that Su Xingchen had gone missing, she suspected that she went to Xiao Guai's room. If even she was suspicious, then what about the police? Only then did Su Xingchen come to her senses. Hatred had made her lose her mind. She couldn't even find such a simple loophole. You just have to pray that Xiao Guai doesn't die so easily. Su Murong expected better from Su Xingchen. Xingchen, I know you hate them, but revenge is a dish best served cold. Why are you so anxious now? Su Xingchen mumbled, Mommy, I was wrong. I'll let it go this time. I just felt Xiao Guai's breath. She's still breathing. Su Murong didn't scare her anymore. She sighed, Xingchen, you're Mommy's only daughter. Mommy has your best interests at heart. I definitely won't harm you. Listen to Mommy and change your temper in the future. Stay calm. Su Xingchen nodded sadly. Okay, let's go back to the room. If we're any later, your daddy will be worried again. Su Murong softened her voice. The mother and daughter went downstairs to the room. When they entered the elevator, Su Xingchen suddenly thought of something and said, Mommy, I think I've been tricked by Su Yunqian. What happened? Su Murong's delicate eyebrows furrowed slightly. Only then did Su Xingchen tell her about Su Yunqian's visit in the afternoon. He also said that Su Yunqian told her that Xia Dong was on the 7th floor. If that wasn't the case, she wouldn't have gone to the 7th floor to investigate. She also wouldn't have known that Xiao Guai lived on the 7th floor. Come and see, Hengcha 866. Chapter 166. Su Murong coldly snorted, Your uncle's precious daughter is much better than you. Look at how skillful she is at using someone else to do her dirty work. Xingchen, you should learn from her. Mommy, I was tricked by her. Why are you still speaking up for her? Su Xingchen said, feeling wronged. How did I give birth to such a good-for-nothing daughter like you? Su Murong poked her head with her finger and said resentfully, think about it. Why can she use someone else to do her dirty work but you can't? Su Xingchen was startled. Suddenly, her eyes lit up and she said, Mommy, are you referring to Bailey Jing? Su Murong nodded in satisfaction, think about it. Why did Su Yunqian tell you that Bailey Jing is coming back to China? Doesn't she want you to use Bailey Jing to deal with Xia Dong? Yes, that must be it. Then let her have her way. Su Murong's lips curved into a cruel smile, however, you want Bailey Jing to deal with not only Xia Dong but also Su Yunqian herself. Su Xingchen's eyes flashed with excitement, Mommy, I know what to do. I won't let you down again. On the 7th floor, the emergency beeper in the ward was ringing non-stop. Doctor, the patient in the isolation ward is suddenly suffocating. Prepare for cardiac resuscitation. Hurry and inform the patient's family. Hurried footsteps sounded in the corridor in the middle of the night. In the ward, the doctor and nurse were performing emergency resuscitation on Xiao Guai. The nurse was in the corridor calling Xia Dong. Xia Dong rushed over with a head of wet hair. She had just finished showering and was about to go to bed when she received the call from the nurse. She was so anxious that her heart was about to stop beating. Doctor, how is my daughter? The emergency treatment was over. The doctor wiped the sweat off his forehead and said, the patient is saved. Xia Dong's body went soft and she almost collapsed. She leaned against the wall and said, Doctor, thank you. But I don't understand why Xiao Guai suddenly stopped breathing. We are also very curious about this matter. The nurse suddenly pointed to the pillow on the chair and said, I remember very clearly that when I went out, I put this pillow next to Xiao Guai. How did it get on the chair? Xia Dong also remembered. Something flashed through her mind and she blurted out, Doctor, when Sister Li and I left the ward, did any medical staff come in? The Sister Li that Xia Dong mentioned was the nurse she hired to take care of Xiao Guai. The doctor frowned. I don't think so. The routine examination is over. Miss Xia, are you suspecting that someone deliberately hurt your daughter? It seems too far-fetched to just rely on a pillow. If this matter was true, then the hospital also had to take some responsibility. Xia Dong only thought for a moment and understood the doctor's concerns. She said with a serious expression, I just think that Xiao Guai suddenly stopped breathing. It's a little strange. Doctor, I believe in this hospital. That's why I sent my daughter here. I also have reasons to think that the hospital should strengthen its management. This time, my daughter was saved, so nothing major happened. If something really happened, which one of you can bear the responsibility? Miss Xia, please rest assured. This kind of accident will not happen again. The door of the isolation ward was not locked. It was very likely that an outsider would break in. It was indeed their negligence in management. After this incident, Xia Dong was worried about leaving Xiao Guai alone in the hospital. She suggested staying with her daughter. The nurse, Sister Li, persuaded her for a long time, but she did not listen. The next morning, Xia Dong woke up in the ICU and found that she had a slight tendency to catch a cold. Her head was a little dizzy, her nose was blocked, and her throat was stinging. She went to the outpatient department to see the doctor. The doctor said that she had indeed caught a cold. It was probably because she went to bed before her hair was dry last night. After taking some cold medicine, her body felt weak and she wanted to sleep. Sister Li advised her to go home and rest. Miss Xia, you have a cold now. It's better to go home and rest. It's broad daylight. I've been watching over Xiao Guai. Nothing will happen. Xia Dong thought about it. Sister Li was right. Moreover, she had a cold and it was easy to bring germs into the ward. So she gave a few words of advice and drove home. While driving, her head was dizzy. Once, she almost hit the railing on the side of the road. She was so frightened that she suddenly woke up. When she finally drove home, she was covered in cold sweat. Mommy, why do you look so pale? Did something happen to Xiao Guai? Xiao Bao saw her pale face and was shocked. Xiao Guai is fine. I have a cold. Baby, Mommy took the medicine and is sleepy. I'm going to sleep for a while. Call me if you need anything. Xia Dong collapsed on the bed and fell asleep quickly. She did not even hear her phone ring many times. Bailey Han called Xia Dong's phone many times, but no one answered. He had a bad feeling in his heart. In the end, he called her home phone. Xiao Bao picked up. When the little guy heard his voice, he was like a kitten. All the fur on his body stood up vigilantly. Why are you looking for my mommy? I just want to ask your mommy how Xiao Guai is doing. Bailey Han pinched his eyebrows. He did not understand why the little guy was so hostile to him. Xiao Bao snorted. Gi Guy is fine. I don't need your fake kindness. Bailey Han paused and asked again, where's your mommy? Why hasn't she answered the phone? Xiao Bao said impatiently, my mommy is sick. She's sleeping now. Don't disturb her. Sick. Bailey Han frowned. Is it serious? It's just a cold. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I'm going to order takeout for my mommy. She definitely hasn't eaten yet. Xiao Bao rubbed his chin, thinking about what his mommy liked to eat. Bailey Han looked at the pile of documents on the table and then looked at his schedule for the day. He suddenly stood up from the chair and took his coat from the hanger. Linda, I'm going out for a while. I'll be back in the afternoon. Call me if you need anything. Okay, CEO. When Bailey Han drove his luxury car to the mall wearing a high-end handmade suit, he bought a lot of things in the vegetable and fruit section. He pushed the cart to the exit to pay the bill, which attracted the attention of many young wives and aunties. Some people even came up to him and asked, young man, do you have a girlfriend? Auntie can introduce you. Bailey Han's expression was cold. He said indifferently, thank you, Auntie, but I already have a girlfriend. TSK, what a pity. The more the auntie looked at Bailey Han, the more she felt that he was her future son-in-law. It was a pity that he already had someone he liked. When Bailey Han said this, the hearts of the people around him broke. He paid the bill, rushed out of the crowd, and got into his luxury car with bags of various sizes. Xiao Bao heard the doorbell ring. He looked at the person outside warily before opening the door. Bailey Han, what are you doing here? Xiao Bao was speechless. Was the man in front of him carrying bags of various sizes really the cold and heartless, king of hell in the business world, Bailey Han? I'm here to see your mommy. Bailey Han did not wait for him to invite him in. He directly grabbed the bags and forced his way in. Hey, what are you doing? Don't touch my kitchen. Don't touch my fridge. That's my favorite bowl. Don't touch it. Xiao Bao followed behind Bailey Han with his short legs. Seeing him busy like a spinning top, he could not help but shout in exasperation. Shoo! Bailey Han suddenly squatted down and put his index finger to his lips, making a shushing gesture. Don't be so loud. Be careful not to wake your mommy. At this moment, Bailey Han was wearing an apron with cartoon images printed on it. His cold and handsome face looked much gentler. He touched Xiao Bao's head. I'll make something delicious for you later. The kitchen is very smoky. Gi Guy, go play outside. You, Xiao Bao's face turned red. After a long while, he squeezed out 3 words. You rascal. Bailey Han chuckled and did not deny it. Xiao Bao flew into a rage out of humiliation. He kicked his leg and ran out of the kitchen angrily. Xia Dong woke up. She hugged the quilt and sat up in bed. Her head was still a little dizzy, but her cold symptoms had improved a lot. She grabbed a shawl and draped it over her shoulders. Yawning, she lazily walked to the living room and poured herself a glass of water. Holding it with both hands, she curled up on the sofa. A fragrant smell wafted from the kitchen, followed by the sound of cooking. Her mind was still not fully awake. She squinted her eyes and leaned against the soft sofa. She called out lazily, Brother Shen. After calling out, she suddenly realized that something was wrong. Brother Shen had gone to Japan. Then who was cooking in the kitchen? Could it be Miss Tian Luo? She amused herself. Her mouth was open foolishly when a figure suddenly walked out of the kitchen with a plate of food in his hands. Xia Dong was instantly petrified. Bailey Han looked at her shocked expression in amusement. The corners of his lips turned up. You're awake. Just in time. The food is ready. Get ready to eat. That man in the cartoon apron must have been a figment of her imagination. She must have opened her eyes the wrong way. Let's do it again. Xia Dong muttered to herself for a while. She trembled as she opened her eyes again. She jumped in shock. A handsome face was enlarged in front of her. He looked slightly worried. What's wrong? Are you still not feeling well? Why are you in my house? Xia Dong stammered. I heard from Xiaobao that you had a cold, so I came to take a look. Bailey Han reached out and touched her forehead. Have you taken your temperature? Do you have a fever? I've taken it. My temperature is normal. Xia Dong pulled his hand away from her forehead and looked at him steadily. Bailey Han, don't be so nice to me anymore. I'm not used to it at all. He was so nice that she felt guilty. Bailey Han chuckled. Then you'll have to learn to get used to it, because I'm going to treat you even better. His straightforward words made Xia Dong blush slightly. He patted her head. Wash your hands and get ready to eat. I'll call Xiaobao. Add, Songshu 566. Chapter 167. The dishes were all very light and suitable for people who had a cold. There was stir-fried fungus with lilies, stir-fried lettuce, broccoli with garlic, cold cucumber with a few drops of sesame oil, and a pot of thick millet porridge. Bailey Han even specially made kola chicken wings and deep-fried drumsticks for Xiao Yi. It had to be said that Bailey Han's cooking was very good. Even the picky Xiaobao temporarily put aside his prejudice against him and ate with relish. The millet porridge not only warmed Xia Dong's stomach, but also warmed her heart. It was a very happy thing to have someone care about her when she was sick. However, in the next moment, she was a little distressed. Bailey Han's care was not something she could accept. Xia Dong was full after eating a bowl of millet porridge, so she put down the bowl and chopsticks. Bailey Han looked at her. Do you want another bowl? No need, I'm full. You can eat slowly. After the meal, Xia Dong wanted to clear the dishes, but Bailey Han stopped her. Sit down and rest. Remember to take your medicine in half an hour. He looked very professional, so Xia Dong couldn't interfere even if she wanted to. Gi Gai curled up on the sofa and watched him busy. He seemed to treat housework as a job. He was serious, not allowing the slightest mistake. After washing the pots and pans, he even wiped the kitchen table clean. It had to be said that he looked very charming when he was serious. A man who did housework could also be very charming. Xia Dong supported her head with one hand. She didn't know where her thoughts had run off to. Xiaobao's soft little body suddenly burrowed into her arms. He whispered, Mom. Xia Dong carried him to her side and asked, Baby, what's the matter? Xiaobao's voice was very low as he said mysteriously, Mom, how did you break up with Bailey Han in the past? Based on his recent observations, he realized that Bailey Han didn't seem like an irresponsible, bad man. Of course, the most important thing was Xiao Yi's background. It made him more and more unsure if he should continue to hate Bailey Han. So, he wanted to figure out what was going on between his mommy and Bailey Han. Xia Dong glanced at Bailey Han, who was cutting fruits in the kitchen, and said in a low voice, This is an adult's business. Little brat, don't worry about it. Mom, I despise you. You always treat me like a 3-year-old. Xiaobao shouted angrily. Bailey Han could not help but look up at the living room. All right, stop yelling. Xia Dong quickly covered his mouth and whispered, Xiaobao, don't let Bailey Han know that you and Xiao Guai are his children. Do you hear me? Xiaobao blinked. His eyes were full of questions, as if he was asking why. Xia Dong was helpless. She said softly, Actually, I did something wrong to him in the past. He didn't do anything wrong to me, so you have to treat him better in the future. The fruit platter hit the glass table and made a crisp sound. Bailey Han's voice came from above. What are you whispering about? Eat some fruit. Xia Dong looked up and smiled dryly. I'm saying that Xiao Bao should treat you better because you're his elder. Isn't that right, Xiao Bao? Her hands secretly pinched Xiao Bao lightly. Xiao Bao pouted unwillingly. That's right, Uncle Bailey. Uncle Bailey, Bailey Han's mouth twitched. Why did he suddenly feel that he was very old? After eating the fruit, Bailey Han sat beside the mother and son. He picked up a newspaper and started reading. He looked like he was going to stay for a long time. 10 minutes passed. Bailey Han was still reading the newspaper seriously. Xia Dong and Xiao Bao looked at each other. Finally, Xia Dong coughed and said, Bailey Han, aren't you going back to the company in the afternoon? Bailey Han looked at the newspaper and said calmly, I've already arranged for the company's matters. Then, you're not busy? No. Bailey Han looked up at her. Are you asking me to leave? No, no. Why would I? Xia Dong waved her hand and smiled. I just think that you're the big boss of the company. You must have a lot of things to do. It's good that you're not busy, it's good that you're not busy. Xiao Bao rolled her eyes. She despised her mother in her heart. Bailey Han wasn't a monster. Why did she look like she was afraid of him? Bailey Han's lips curled up slightly. He looked at his watch. It was almost time. He poured a glass of warm water and took out some cold medicine. He placed it in front of Xia Dong. Take the medicine. Okay. Xia Dong looked like she was going to die a martyr's death. She swallowed the pill. Bailey Han actually took out a chocolate from his pocket and handed it to her. Xia Dong was petrified. Bailey Han felt a little uncomfortable under her stare. He coughed and explained, Xiao Yi likes to eat chocolate. Actually, he gave this to me, oh. Xia Dong peeled the chocolate and stuffed it into her mouth. There were only a few key words left in her mind. Xiao Yi gave it to him. After she took the medicine, he reminded her, you rest at home. I'm going to the hospital to visit Xiao Guai. I want to go too. Xia Dong jumped down from the sofa. Be good. You have a cold now. Who knows if you'll pass the virus to Xiao Guai. Why don't you rest at home and then go to the hospital to visit her? Bailey Han called out to Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao, look after your mommy. Don't let her run around. Xia Dong was unhappy. Hey, what do you mean run around? I'm not a child. Bailey Han chuckled. In my eyes, Xiao Bao is more reliable than you. Xiao Bao nodded seriously. Uncle Bailey, I strongly agree with you on this point. Xia Dong was in tears. She was completely despised by the father and son. In the end, Xia Dong couldn't persuade Bailey Han. Xiao Bao kept pestering her and she didn't go to the hospital to visit Xiao Guai. Bailey Han played with Xiao Guai in the hospital for more than an hour. After she fell asleep, he went to the company. Before he got off work, he called Xia Dong. What do you want to eat tonight? Xia Dong was shocked. He wouldn't come to help her cook again, right? She quickly said, I'll just make some porridge tonight. Don't trouble yourself. Seeing her so fearful, Bailey Han was speechless. Forget it, he'd do as he saw fit. He looked at the time and said, you don't have to make food. I'll buy it on the way and bring it over. I'll be at your place around 6. After work, Bailey Han drove to a private restaurant and took away the food that he had ordered in advance. The fragrant stewed beef brisket with tomatoes, the milky white ginseng chicken soup, and the green vegetables were placed on the table. Xia Dong and Xiao Bao couldn't help but exclaim. It smells so good. Bailey Han smiled when he saw their satisfied expressions. He picked up his jacket and said, Xiao Bao, remember to remind your mommy to take her medicine half an hour after dinner. Perhaps it was because of what Xia Dong said at noon, or because Bailey Han's role as the good guy was too deeply rooted in people's hearts, Xiao Bao's impression of him had changed greatly. He nodded and said, I know. Bailey Han smiled and touched his head. Then he looked at Xia Dong. I'm leaving first. I've already told the hospital. Xia Dong said, aren't you going to eat with us? His lips curved and his smile became gentler. I promised Xiao Yi that I would go home and have dinner with him every day. Oh, okay. Be careful on the road. Xia Dong walked him to the door. He suddenly put his arm around her shoulders and lowered his head to get closer to her. You, Xia Dong panicked and reached out to push him away. He was very strong. Her struggles were useless in front of him. He continued to get closer to her and kissed her forehead gently. He whispered, rest well. Don't make me worry. Xia Dong's delicate face flushed red. He chuckled. I like to see you shy. Ah, how could he say something so shameless? Her heart pounded. Finally, she blushed and squeezed out 2 words from between her teeth. Pervert, he laughed deeply. His voice was full of pleasure. She glared at him. What are you laughing at? Hurry up and leave. I'll leave immediately. But you have to promise me that you'll remember to miss me. He liked to tease her and see her angry face. As expected, Xia Dong was angry. Bailey Han, I order you to get out of my sight immediately. Was the world going crazy? Bailey Han had always been expressionless. Why was he teasing her so blatantly? Was he possessed by Bailey Yun? Alright, I was just joking. Don't be angry. Bailey Han knew when to stop. He rubbed her hair and smiled warmly. Hurry up and go in. The food will get cold soon. Xia Dong, who felt bullied by him, didn't even say goodbye. She closed the door and leaned against it to calm her nerves that were about to break down. Thanks to Bailey Han's meticulous care, Xia Dong recovered from her cold the next day and continued to live a lively and valiant life. Xiao Guai's illness was also much better. The doctor said that she could be discharged in 2 days. Of course, she still had to undergo chemotherapy on time to control her condition. On the day Xiao Guai was discharged, Xia Dong brought Xiao Bao and Bailey Han brought Xiao Yi. The 4 of them brought her home. Her face was as white as snow. She wore a mask and her small and soft body seemed to have lost a lot of weight. Her pair of beautiful eyes blinked as if they could speak. On the way, Xia Dong felt that something was wrong with Xiao Yi. He sat in the back corner expressionlessly and seemed to be very angry. Xia Dong turned around and whispered to Bailey Han, what's wrong with Xiao Yi? He seems unhappy. Bailey Han also whispered, I'm not sure either. Xia Dong glared at him. How can you be his daddy? He smiled and said half-jokingly, since you're worried, why don't you be his mommy? It'll make it easier for you to supervise me. Xia Dong couldn't be bothered with him. Xiao Guai, who was in Xia Dong's arms, was so happy that her eyes narrowed into slits. She giggled and said, Mommy, Uncle Bailey, I heard you. Little one, look at how capable you are. Xia Dong was amused and kissed her daughter on the cheek. Bailey Han chuckled. Xiao Guai, do you agree with Uncle Bailey's suggestion? Add, Songshu 566. Chapter 168. Xiao Guai blinked her big beautiful eyes and pondered seriously. But if mommy becomes Brother Yi's mommy, won't I have to marry uncle? Xia Dong said nervously, Xiao Guai, don't say any more. Bailey Han glanced at Xiao Guai. Yeah, that's right. Xiao Guai let out an, oh, and her next words almost made Bailey Han vomit blood. She said, then I can't agree to it. I want Uncle Shin to be my daddy. Bailey Han's face darkened. Why? Because Uncle Shin loves my mommy a lot. Xia Dong's face darkened. You little brat, what do you know about love? Don't talk nonsense. I'm not talking nonsense. Mommy, if you don't believe me, you can ask brother. Xiao Guai turned her little head to look at the back seat and shouted, Brother, am I right? Although their conversation was soft, it couldn't be hidden from Xiao Yi and Xiao Bao, who were sitting in the back seat. Xiao Yi's face darkened and she clenched her fists in anger. Xiao Bao was speechless at their conversation, but he couldn't dampen his sister's spirits, so he could only nod. "Look, mommy. Brother agrees with me." Xia Dong said helplessly, "Yes, yes. You're the best." Bailey Han was very unhappy. Mika Keto occupied a very important position in the children's hearts. It wasn't easy to defeat him. From the time Xiao Yi went to the hospital to pick up Xiao Guai until the time he and Bailey Han left Xia Dong's house, he didn't say a word or smile. The way he looked at Xia Dong frightened her. It wasn't a look that a 4-year-old child should have. It was filled with deep resentment. Whenever Xia Dong thought of the look in his eyes when he left, she would feel flustered. Could it be that he had discovered something? The next day, he told Xia Dong the answer himself. He suddenly appeared alone in front of Xia Dong's house. Xia Dong heard a knock on the door. She opened the door but did not see anyone. Just as she was about to close the door, she heard Xiao Yi's cold voice. "I'm downstairs." She lowered her head and indeed saw Xiao Yi standing at the door. His handsome little face was covered with a layer of frost and his dark eyes were staring at her sharply. "Xiao Yi, why are you here alone?" Xia Dong was surprised and invited him in with a smile. He strode over with his short legs and sat on the sofa obediently. He looked at her coldly. "I have something to tell you." Xia Dong poured a glass of fruit juice for him and sat across from him. "Xiao Yi, what do you want to tell me?" Xiao Yi's eyes revealed a deep resentment and he asked word by word, "Why did you abandon me?" Xia Dong's breathing suddenly stopped and her heart almost stopped beating. She gritted her teeth fiercely and came back to her senses. She forced a smile. "Xiao Yi, what are you talking about?" Auntie doesn't understand. He suddenly became angry and his little face flushed red. He said fiercely, "Stop pretending. I've tested our DNA and I know you're my mommy." Xia Dong's head exploded and her body trembled violently. She leaned against the sofa and her face was as pale as snow. "I'm asking you, why did you abandon me?" In order to get an answer today, he had snuck over to ask her while Daddy was at work. Xia Dong's lips trembled and her face was full of pain. "I'm sorry, Xiao Yi." "I'm sorry." Xiao Yi jumped off the sofa angrily and walked in front of her. He looked up and stared at her coldly. "I want to know the answer. Why did you abandon me?" "I'm sorry." Xia Dong bent down to hug him. "Xiao Yi, I'm sorry. I love you. I didn't abandon you on purpose. I really have my reasons." He couldn't dodge in time and was hugged tightly by her. Her embrace was so fragrant and warm. Every time he was lonely, he wanted someone to hug him like this, but she never appeared. Tears welled up in his eyes. "Why did you abandon me? Why did you abandon me? Do you know how pitiful it is to be a child without a mommy?" "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Xia Dong was already sobbing. She hugged him tightly and apologized repeatedly. "Why did you abandon me? You're the one who abandoned me." Xiao Yi was full of resentment. "I'm the same as Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai. We're both your children. How could you treat me like this? How could you treat me like this?" Xiao Yi became more and more agitated as he spoke. He finally burst into tears and pounded his chest with his fists. "I hate you. I hate you. Xiao Yi, listen to mommy. Mommy loves you. I really didn't abandon you on purpose." Hearing him say that he hated her, Xia Dong's heart ached so much that her tears fell. "I don't believe you anymore. I won't believe you anymore. I hate you. I'll never forgive you." Little Wingzy cried loudly. His tears were like a broken string of pearls as they rolled down his face. His cries were like sharp knives cutting into Xia Dong's heart. She couldn't help but wail. Their cries alerted Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai. Xiao Bao walked towards them step by step. He couldn't believe it. Mommy, is Bailey Yi really your child? Xia Dong cried even louder. She hugged Xiao Yi tightly in her arms as if this could make up for the 4 years of motherly love she had missed. Mommy, does this mean that brother Yi is also my biological brother? Uncle Bailey is our daddy? It took a long time for Xiao Guai to react. A trace of blood appeared on her pale face as she muttered, "So, big brother and I also have a daddy." Xiao Yi cried and struggled hard. "Let go of me. I'm never going to talk to you again. Xiao Yi, I hate you, let go of me." Bailey Yi hammered her arm with all his might, his pair of short legs kicking her forcefully. Xiao Bao widened her eyes in shock and shouted, "Bailey Yi, don't hit mommy. She's pregnant. You'll hurt her and the baby." Bailey Yi stopped kicking, but his cries did not stop. Xia Dong had no choice but to let go of him. His eyes were red and his face was covered in tears. He glared at Xia Dong hatefully. "I'm leaving. I'll never see you again." He ran to the door and tiptoed to open it. Xia Dong chased after him, but his small body shot into the elevator like a cannonball. By the time Xia Dong ran down the stairs, he had already disappeared. Xia Dong was worried and called Bailey Han. In order not to expose the truth, she could only tell him to pay more attention to Xiao Yi's movements. She felt that something was wrong with him. Bailey Han received Xia Dong's call and immediately called the villa. After the butler received the call, he ran upstairs to look for Bailey Yi, but he was nowhere to be seen. The butler anxiously reported, young master is missing. His car is also missing." Bailey Han took his coat and walked out of the office while making a call. He calmly ordered, "Pull up the surveillance video outside the villa and see when he disappeared." By the time Bailey Han returned to the villa, the butler had already ordered a group of servants to go out and look for him. Bailey Han watched the video and found that Xiao Yi ran away from home on his car 2 hours ago. He immediately contacted Xia Dong. "Xia Dong, Xiao Yi ran away from home. I called his cell phone but he didn't answer. Did he contact you?" Xia Dong's pupils suddenly shrank. She hesitated and lied, "Xiao Yi came to my place more than an hour ago. He said that he was here to see Xiao Guai. I saw that his expression was a little strange, so I called you and asked you to pay more attention. Do you know which direction he went?" Xia Dong said guiltily, "I'm sorry. He left in a hurry. When I went downstairs, he was already gone." "It's okay. It's none of your business. Can you let me know if you have any news?" "Okay, I'll hang up first." Xiao Yi had only been missing for 2 hours. Even if a police report was filed, the police station would not accept it. Bailey Han used his connections to ask the police chief to pay more attention. Then, he mobilized the Dragon Gang's forces to search the entire city for Xiao Yi's whereabouts. Xia Dong anxiously paced back and forth in the room. Xiao Bao couldn't stand it anymore. He pursed his lips and said, "Mom, there's no use for you to be anxious. You have to believe in Bailey Han's ability. He will definitely find Xiao Yi. Moreover, Xiao Yi is so smart. He won't be in any danger." Xia Dong sighed. "I know that he's smart, but no matter how smart he is, he's only a 4-year-old child. If he really meets bad people, how can he fight against them?" Xiao Bao still wanted to persuade her, but she suddenly shook her head and said, "I can't wait any longer. Xiao Bao, do you know where Xiao Yi likes to go?" Xiao Guai raised his arm and said in a childish voice, "Mommy, I know. Brother Yi likes zoos and amusement parks. Gigai is so smart." Xia Dong patted her daughter's head and asked Xiao Bao, "Do you have a different answer?" Xiao Bao thought for a moment. "And the beach." Xia Dong texted the 2 children's guesses to Bailey Han. She also decided to go to the beach to try her luck. Because she was worried that something would happen to Gigai when she wasn't home, Xia Dong armed her to the teeth. She took the two children with her to the beach to look for Xiao Yi. The sunset was quiet and calm on the beach in the evening. The sea washed over the beach. From time to time, shells and small fish were stranded on the shore. Xia Dong put a sun hat on Xiao Guai. She carried her and looked around the beach, hoping to find Xiao Yi. Xiao Bao walked beside her and craned his neck from time to time to look here and there. He was also a little anxious. Although he used to hate Bailey Yi, when he found out that Bailey Yi was his brother, his rejection of Bailey Yi lessened a lot. He even slowly began to accept him. Mom, you and Xiao Bao are over here. I'll go over there and take a look. Xiao Bao pointed at a rocky mountain. I don't think so. Let's go over together. The rocky mountain looked a little steep. What if Xiao Bao got into an accident? The three of them walked over to the rocky mountain. Xia Dong looked at her feet seriously and didn't notice what was in front of her. Suddenly, she heard her daughter exclaim, "Hey, Mommy, isn't that Uncle Lin? Who's the auntie with him?" Welfare, Hung Cha 866. Chapter 169. Xia Dong looked up and saw a couple walking towards them with their backs to the setting sun. The man was Lin Shihao, and the woman was Bai Mei Wei. Bai Mei Wei was wearing a long white dress, and her long hair was draped over her shoulders. Her long dress swayed gently in the sea breeze. She was very beautiful, like a fairy descending into the mortal world. The two of them had their heads lowered and seemed to be talking about something. They didn't notice Xia Dong and the others. Xia Dong's eyes moved. She carried her daughter with one hand and pulled Xiao Bao with the other, and they hid behind a huge rock. The two of them gradually walked towards them. When they passed by the rock, Xia Dong heard their conversation. Bai Mei Wei said, "Senior, thank you for coming here with me. I feel much better now." Lin Shihao said, "The patient passed away, and the family members are upset. They said a few unpleasant things. Don't take it to heart." Bai Mei Wei smiled. "Senior, I really admire you. You don't seem to get angry no matter what happens." Lin Shihao also smiled. "Really? I'm not a god. How can I not be angry?" Bai Mei Wei smiled brightly. "You are like a god in my heart. It seems like nothing can stump you." "You're exaggerating." The sound of their conversation gradually faded away. Xia Dong walked out from behind the rock. She felt a little uncomfortable, but she quickly comforted herself. Maybe she was thinking too much. They were just normal friends. "Vixen." Xiao Bao puffed up his cheeks and snorted. Xiao Bao, don't talk nonsense." "I'm not talking nonsense. That woman is obviously not a good person." Xiao Bao hated women who seduced other people's men. So annoying. Xia Dong rubbed his head speechlessly. "Let's hurry and find Xiao Yi." "Mommy, I want to get down. I want to walk on my own," Xiao Guai whined in her arms. "Gigai, it's not easy to walk on the beach. Mommy should carry you." "But I don't want to tire out the little brother in Mommy's stomach." Xiao Guai obediently hugged her neck and said, "Mommy, I promise I'll be careful when I walk." "Mom, let Gigai down." "I'll take care of Gigai," Xiao Bao promised as he patted his chest. "All right then. You all have to be careful." Xia Dong put Xiao Guai down and watched as the siblings walked forward hand in hand. They searched the beach for more than half an hour, but they didn't find Xiao Yi. Instead, they bumped into a few men in black. They held Xiao Yi's photo and asked around if anyone had seen this child. Xia Dong knew that they were from Bailey Han. On the other side, Bailey Han also drove to the place where he had gone with Xiao Yi to search, but he didn't find any good news. The sun was about to set. In a park, a child was sitting on a bench with an expressionless face. Beside him was an advanced children's scooter. The phone in his pocket kept ringing, so he finally turned it off. "Hey, little brat, is this scooter yours? Lend me your scooter to play with." A group of 7 or 8-year-old children walked over with their arms around each other's shoulders. The tallest child among them asked arrogantly. Xiao Yi was in a bad mood and didn't want to pay attention to them. He coldly looked at them and didn't answer. "Hey, little brat, our boss is talking to you. Why don't you answer? Are you mute?" Xiao Yi coldly snorted. His eyes were full of disdain. "Hey, this damn brat, are you looking for a beating? Su-er, drag his scooter to me." The child who was called boss was angry. Xiao Yi jumped off the bench and stood in front of his scooter. He coldly said, "Get lost." The child called Su-er shouted, "Brat, you have no manners. You must have a mother who gave birth to you and didn't teach you." Xiao Yi was poked in his wound. His anger flared up. His eyes were like sharp knives. He stared at the child who spoke and clenched his fists. "Say that again if you have the guts." "Humph, you little brat, you still want to teach me a lesson?" "I'll say it again. Do you think I don't dare?" "I said you have no manners. You have a mother who gave birth to you and didn't teach you." There were a total of 5 people. Each of them was taller and stronger than Xiao Yi. They didn't put this little brat in their eyes. "Go to hell." Xiao Yi angrily rushed forward. Although he was small, he was very strong. He had learned a few moves from the bodyguards at home. He punched and kicked Su-er. Su-er was kicked in the stomach and cried out in pain. "Boss, this damn brat is quite powerful." The child next to him interjected, "Should we help Su-er? Isn't that nonsense? Let's all go together and teach this stinking brat a lesson." The 5 children rushed forward together. Xiao Yi was surrounded in the middle. He was like an enraged little beast. He stared at them fiercely. The hatred in his eyes made the child closest to him tremble. He subconsciously took a step back. "You are too useless. You are afraid of this little brat." The leader of the children slapped the head of the cowardly child. He was the first to rush forward. He bent down and grabbed Xiao Yi's clothes. He fiercely said, "Brat, you hurt my brother. I will teach you a lesson." "Bah!" Xiao Yi spat on his face. "I am so angry." The leader of the children wiped the saliva on his face and slapped Xiao Yi's cheek. Little Wingzi tilted his head and dodged the man's slap. Little Wingzi then kicked the man's leg. The man cried out in pain and shouted at the 4 people who were still in a daze, "Don't just stand there. Attack!" "Oh, oh." The 5 of them grabbed Xiao Yi's arms, legs, and directly hugged him from behind. Slaps and fists fell like raindrops. "Little brat, quickly beg us for mercy. We will let you go." Xiao Yi's face was bruised, but his expression was stubborn. He didn't let them go. His eyes were sharp and cold. He couldn't wait to pounce on them and bite them to death. "What are you doing? Let him go." Suddenly, there was a fierce roar. The 5 children looked up and saw a woman running towards them with a face full of anger. They immediately let go of Xiao Yi and ran away like a swarm of bees. After returning from the beach, Xia Dong drove to a few more places, but she couldn't find Xiao Yi. She was about to go crazy from anxiety. In the end, she saw Xiao Guai leaning against the chair and falling asleep. She had no choice but to take the children home. When she passed by the park, she suddenly had an idea. This was very close to her neighborhood, so Xiao Yi might be here. Thus, she parked the car by the roadside and asked Xiao Bao to take care of the sleeping Xiao Guai. She ran in to try her luck. Unexpectedly, she saw a group of children bullying Xiao Yi from afar, so she rushed over to scold them. She didn't expect to see Xiao Yi with a face full of injuries. "Xiao Yi, don't be afraid. I will take you to the hospital right away." Xia Dong's heart almost stopped beating. She pounced on him to hug him, but he pushed her away. He said coldly, "Go away. I don't need you to care about me." Xia Dong's nose twitched. She choked and said, "Do you know that because you went missing, we were all very worried? Your daddy is still looking for you everywhere. How can you be so willful?" He said coldly, "I'm willful. That's because I was born to a mother and raised by no mother." His words were like a sharp knife stabbing into her body, and it hurt her to the core. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she dug her nails into her palms. "Okay, you can hate me. But if you are so willful, how can you face daddy who loves you? Xiao-yi, Gigai, listen to me and let me take you to the hospital, okay?" She said the last sentence almost in a pleading tone. His dark eyes moved, and he stared deeply into her quietly crying eyes. His heartless words cut into her heart. "You have never cared about me since I was born. I don't want you to care about me now, and I don't want you to care about me in the future. I will treat it as if my mommy is already dead." Tears streamed down her face. He flung her hand away and walked to his scooter. Just as he was about to step onto the scooter, Xia Dong rushed over and quickly picked him up. "Let go of me, let go of me." Xiao Yi struggled and screamed. He even bit her arm with his teeth, but he didn't kick her. "I won't let go. I won't let go. Even if you hate me, I will take you to the hospital," Xia Dong said as she walked quickly with Xiao Yi in her arms. Xiao Yi was much heavier than Xiao Guai. When they reached the entrance of the park, Xia Dong was already tired, but she still gritted her teeth and carried him to her car. "Bao Bao, I will put Xiao Yi in the back seat. Look after him." Xia Dong put Xiao Yi in the back seat and instructed Xiao Bao. Xiao Yi was in a sorry state. His face was injured, and the corner of his mouth was red and swollen. Xiao Bao's pupils contracted when he saw him like this. He desperately grabbed onto him as he tried to escape and said angrily, "Don't be so childish, okay? Behave yourself." The car door slammed shut and Xia Dong started the car. Xiao Yi wanted to escape, but he didn't have the chance. He gradually calmed down. Xiao Bao sighed in relief and poked his arm with his finger. There was concern in his voice that even he didn't notice. "What happened to your injuries? Did you get into a fight with someone?" Little Wingzi hissed in pain when his finger poked Little Wingzi's arm. Xiao Bao quickly retracted his finger. "Is your arm hurt too?" Xiao Yi made a soft sound and turned his little face away awkwardly. He didn't want to talk to him. Xiao Bao's eyes darted around. He suddenly thought of something and dug around in his little backpack. He pulled out a tube of ointment, twisted the cap, and said, "Turn your head around." Xiao Yi snorted and ignored him. "I told you to turn your head around. You're so awkward." Xiao Bao didn't dare to casually pull him for fear of touching his wound. However, Xiao Yi didn't want to cooperate, so he had no choice but to be magnanimous and move to the other side of him. He applied some ointment on the ointment with his small finger and reached out to Xiao Yi's eyes. Xiao Yi frowned. "What are you trying to do?" Welfare, Xinwu 799. Chapter 170. Xiao Bao rolled his eyes. "You're stupid. Isn't it obvious that I'm going to help you apply medicine? Don't move." Xiao Yi's eyes flickered, but he really didn't dodge. Xiao Bao was very serious as he gently rubbed the medicine on his wound bit by bit. Xia Dong saw through the rearview mirror that Xiao Bao was applying medicine for Xiao Yi, and Xiao Yi didn't struggle or resist. Her mood instantly improved. No matter what, there was still affection between the two children. Xiao Yi wouldn't be so lonely in the future. Bailey Han quickly arrived at the hospital. Xia Dong and the others were sitting on a bench in the corridor. The injuries on Xiao Yi's face had already been treated. The corner of his mouth was the most serious, red and swollen. The sleeves of both of his arms were rolled up high, revealing patches of bruises and bruises. His heart ached and he was angry. It took him a long time to control his anger. He asked in a low voice, "Why did you run away from home?" Xiao Yi hung his head. I didn't run away from home. I just wanted to have some peace and quiet outside before going home. Peace and quiet. Bailey Han didn't know whether to laugh or cry at his mature thinking. He frowned and said, "How did you end up like this? Did you get into a fight with someone?" "Yeah." He was honest and admitted his guilt. Bailey Han looked stern. "Why did you get into a fight?" Xiao Yi looked up at him. His eyes were covered with a layer of mist. "They wanted to take my scooter and said that I was a child who had a mother but didn't raise her." Bailey Han's bellyful of reprimanding words were all blocked. His throat was unbearably dry. Xia Dong wasn't any better. Her heart was full of bitterness. Bailey Han was silent for a while. He raised his hand and patted Xiao Yi's head. "Don't get into fights again. You don't have a mother, but you still have Daddy. Don't make Daddy worry again, okay?" "Uh-huh." Xiao Yi nodded. The tears in her eyes fell onto her lap and onto Xia Dong's heart. "Good girl." Bailey Han held him in his arms and carefully avoided his wound. He said softly, "Daddy will take you home." Xiao Yi lay in Bailey Han's arms and replied softly, Bailey Han looked at Xia Dong and said, "Xia Dong, I'll take Xiao Yi home first. I'm very grateful for what you did today." Xia Dong stood up and forced a smile. "You're welcome. We're going back too. Take good care of Xiao Yi." The next day, Xia Dong called Bailey Han to ask about Xiao Yi. Bailey Han's voice sounded a little gloomy. "Xiao Yi caught a cold after coming back last night." Xia Dong hesitated for a moment. "Can I go over to see him?" "Of course. I happen to be busy this morning and can't take care of him. I'll have to trouble you to take care of him on my behalf." Bailey Han was very happy to see her and Xiao Yi getting along well. Xia Dong sent Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao to her aunt's house and went to the supermarket to buy a lot of things. By the time she drove to Bailey's house, it was already past 10 o'clock. The sun was shining brightly and she was sweating profusely as she wrung the things at the front door. The butler found out from Bailey Han that Xia Dong was coming and was already waiting at the door. When he saw her, he hurried over and helped her carry the things. "Miss Xia, it's good that you're here. Why did you buy so many things?" Xia Dong smiled. "They're all fresh vegetables and fruits. Come in quickly. It's too hot outside." The butler asked a servant to ring the things and invited Xia Dong in. He also served her fresh fruit juice. "Butler, how's Xiao Yi doing now?" "Little master had a high fever last night. Dr. Su gave him an 4 drip and his fever went down this morning. He's sleeping soundly now. Can I go up and see him?" "Of course. Miss Xia, this way please." The butler had already received orders from Bailey Han that no matter what requests Xia Dong had, he had to satisfy her. This was the first time Xia Dong had walked into Xiao Yi's room in the villa. It was similar to the room in the old mansion. Other than the height of the furniture, it was decorated a little like an adult's room. Even the bedding was dark and did not look like a child's room at all. Xia Dong immediately felt that Bailey Han was a failure as a father. From her expression, the butler could sense her dissatisfaction. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, "Miss Xia, the room's layout was actually ordered by Little Master. It doesn't look like a child's room. Their Little Master was a famous little old man. Miss Xia, I'll go down first. Take your time to look around." On the bed, Xiao Yi was curled up into a small ball. It was a position where he did not feel safe. There was an uneasy expression on his face. His handsome eyebrows were knitted together and his thin lips were tightly pursed. He looked like he was suffering in his sleep. "Xiao Yi." Xia Dong did not dare to speak too loudly for fear of waking him up. She softly called his name and gently stroked his eyebrows with her fingers. "Mommy. Mommy." He seemed to be having a nightmare. Suddenly, a frightened expression appeared on his face and he muttered, "Mommy. Don't abandon me." Xia Dong held his hand and said softly, "Baby, Mommy is here. Mommy won't abandon you. I won't abandon you. Xiao Yi seemed to hear her comforting voice and gradually calmed down. Xia Dong bit her lip and used her other hand to pull the blanket up a little to cover him. When she wanted to quietly pull her hand out, Xiao Yi moved his body uneasily. She could only let him hold her hand. She stroked her son's hair and softly sang a nursery rhyme. His breathing gradually stabilized and he fell into a deep sleep. Just like that, more than an hour passed. When it was almost lunchtime, Xia Dong gently pulled her hand out of her son's and quietly walked out of the room. The moment she pulled her hand out, Xiao Yi woke up. When he opened his eyes, he happened to see her getting up and leaving. Was she going to abandon him again? This thought surged in his mind. His chest felt like it was going to explode. He turned his back to her and quietly cried. Xia Dong stood at the door. She took one last look at Xiao Yi and gently closed the door. In the kitchen downstairs, the chef was busy. When he saw Xia Dong come in, he hurriedly said, "Miss Xia, quickly go out. The smell of cooking oil is too strong here." Xia Dong smiled. "Leave lunch to me today." The chef was stunned. "How can this be? You're a guest." Xia Dong snatched the kitchen knife from his hand. "I'm here to take care of Xiao Yi today. I'm not a guest." The chef had no choice but to let her have the kitchen. When she went out, she bumped into the butler. Just as she was about to say something, the butler shushed her and said in a low voice, "Young master agreed to this. You can go do other things." The butler had a deep understanding of Bailey Han's thinking. When Xia Dong came out of the kitchen, there was not a single servant in the villa. It was as if only she and Xiao Yi were left. Although Xia Dong felt that it was a little strange, she did not think too much about it. After washing her hands, she went upstairs to call Xiao Yi for lunch. Xiao Yi was lying on the bed with his back to the door. She called out to him softly. She didn't leave. Xiao Yi tensed up and pricked up his ears. He heard her approach the bed and sit down beside him. She gently stroked his hair. "Xiao Yi, get up and eat. You can sleep after eating, okay?" His body froze and he turned around to look at her. His dark eyes were filled with complicated emotions. "Be good. Get up and eat." Xia Dong carried him from the bed and smiled gently. "Do you want me to carry you downstairs or do you want to walk downstairs yourself?" He was very greedy for her embrace, but he still pushed her away and said coldly, "I said I don't want to see you." She was very hurt, but the smile on her face did not change. "I'll leave after you finish eating. Xiao Yi, don't hurt your body because you're angry with me, okay?" He looked at her quietly, and she looked at him quietly. Finally, he turned his face away and said coldly, "I want to get out of bed." "Okay, I'll get some clothes for you." Xia Dong put him down on the bed and took a jacket from the changing room for him to put on. When they went downstairs, he walked in front of her with his head held high and his chest out. He walked carefully step by step. Although most of the dishes on the table were vegetarian, they were all his favorite dishes. The sour cold fern root powder whetted his appetite as soon as it entered his mouth. She had also made fragrant and sweet corn porridge. After the meal, there was also a small dessert, stewed double-skin milk. However, she had only prepared a small portion, so he didn't eat to his heart's content at all. Seeming to know his dissatisfaction, she smiled and explained, "You're sick, so you shouldn't eat too much. I'll make a few more desserts later and put them in the fridge. You can eat them at night, but you can't eat too much. It's not good for your health if you eat too much at night." He curled his lips coldly. "Okay, I got it. You're so long-winded." She smiled and let him play in the living room for a while. She cleared the table and was about to wash it when a maid appeared out of nowhere and said, "Miss Xia, I'll wash it." "Okay, I'll have to trouble you then." Xia Dong didn't stand on ceremony and went to the living room to accompany Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi sat on the sofa and watched the television, ignoring her existence. She took the chessboard over and said, "Xiao Yi, play chess with me, okay?" He looked at her coldly. "Do you know how to play chess?" She smiled sheepishly. "It's such a high IQ game." "Of course." "I don't, then what do you want to play?" Actually, she didn't want to play chess at all. She just wanted to get closer to him. She blinked. "Gamoku." He sneered. "Boring." She laughed dryly. "That's true." "Forget it then." He took the black stones nonchalantly. "I'll take the white stones and you take the black stones. You go first." "Oh, okay." The corners of Xia Dong's lips curled up slightly. The mother and son pair laid on the small table and started to play chess. The black stones had a great advantage, but Xia Dong still couldn't beat Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi mocked her. "You're so stupid. I already have 3 stones here. Why don't you block me? Instead, you're wasting your stones here." Xiao Yi is so smart. Xia Dong wasn't angry at all. Instead, she smiled and praised him. He snorted coldly, and his ears were tinged with a faint pink color. After playing chess for more than an hour, Xia Dong urged Xiao Yi to take his medicine and wanted to send him upstairs for an afternoon nap. He refused. He had slept for so long in the morning and didn't want to sleep anymore. Welfare, Songshu 566. Chapter 171. She had planned to go to the kitchen to make dessert while he was taking a nap. Since he didn't want to sleep, she bent down and asked him, "I'm going to make cookies and cakes. Do you want to help?" He curled his lips coolly with a look of disdain. "No." Xia Dong didn't take it to heart. She smiled and said, "Then you play by yourself. I'm going to the kitchen." Xia Dong first inspected the villa's kitchen. The ovens, cake molds, biscuit molds, egg splitters, measuring cups, and other utensils needed to make cakes and biscuits were all very complete. Coupled with the other ingredients she had bought, it was very easy to make delicious cakes and biscuits. First, she planned to make Xiao Yi's favorite chocolate chestnut cake. She cut the butter and dark chocolate into small pieces and put them into a bowl with fine sugar and milk. She heated it over water and stirred it continuously until it completely melted and turned into a liquid. Then, she beat the eggs and poured them into the chocolate mixture. She mixed them evenly, then added flour, cocoa powder, and baking powder, and mixed them evenly into cake batter. She put the batter into a grinding tool and baked it for later use. Next, she made the chestnut cream filling. Sifting the chestnuts was a very time-consuming task. Xia Dong worked for about half an hour before she finished sifting the ripe chestnuts into chestnuts. She sighed deeply and rubbed her aching waist. She inadvertently looked up and saw Xiao Yi standing at the kitchen door. When their eyes met, Xiao Yi felt as though someone had caught her in a pigtail. She guiltily tried to cover up and said coldly, "I'm afraid you'll blow up the kitchen, so I'm here to keep an eye on you." Xia Dong grinned. "Okay, you're welcome to keep an eye on me." She lowered her head and continued working. After she finished making the chestnut cream filling, she put it into the floral tape. She cut a hole in the floral tape and squeezed the chestnut cream filling onto the cake. She carefully handled every step and didn't notice that Xiao Yi, who was originally standing at the door to keep an eye on her, had disappeared. Then, a glass of fresh lemon juice suddenly appeared near her right hand. She looked down at Xiao Yi by her feet. Xiao Yi pouted and raised her chin coolly. "If you blow up the kitchen, you can use this glass of lemon juice to put out the fire." Xia Dong smiled, but she didn't expose him. "If the kitchen didn't explode, I would have drunk this glass of lemon juice in order not to waste it." He snorted. "That's your business. You don't have to report to me. I'm going out to play." "Wait a moment." Xia Dong quickly cut a small piece of cake and put it on a plate. She took a fork and squatted in front of him. "Supervisor, the cake is ready. Try it first." The aroma of the freshly baked cake wafted in the air. He, who liked sweets, was immediately attracted by the cake on the plate. However, he was unwilling to show his liking in front of her. He turned his face away and said, "I'm still very full. I don't want to eat." "It's okay. I'll leave it for now and eat it when you're hungry." Xia Dong put the plate back on the table with a smile. "Next, I'm going to make a nice and delicious snack, purple potato balls. Supervisor, do you want to continue to supervise here?" "It's none of your business," Xiao Yi said coldly. He didn't even look at her. He straightened his chest and walked out of the kitchen. Xia Dong watched his short figure disappear at the door and smiled bitterly. However, when her gaze landed on the glass of lemon juice, her heart warmed a little. Compared to making chocolate chestnut cake, making purple potato balls was much easier. Purple potato balls were suitable for eating immediately. If they were left for too long, they wouldn't taste good. She only fried a small plate for Xiao Yi's afternoon snack. Then, she wrapped the rest of the purple potato dough in plastic wrap and put it in the fridge. She planned to tell the chef to make it for Xiao Yi in the future before she left. Looking at the time, it was only 4 in the afternoon. It was still early. She made a simple salty biscuit, black sesame seaweed biscuit. Finally, she made mango glutinous rice paste and put it in the fridge. When Bailey Han came back from work, it would be ready to eat. It was to repay him for taking care of her when she was sick. After doing all this, Xia Dong washed her hands. She carried the plate of chocolate chestnut cake and freshly squeezed apple juice to the living room. She didn't see Xiao Yi. After thinking about it, she asked the maid to send it upstairs on her behalf. Xiao Yi hated her. If she sent it upstairs, he might refuse. "Miss Xia, you're leaving already. Aren't you going to say goodbye to the young master?" When Xia Dong packed up and was about to leave, the butler appeared at the right time. "No need. I'm just here to see him today. I'm relieved to see that he's getting better. Uncle Li, please take good care of him." After saying the last sentence, Xia Dong felt that she had misspoken. Butler Li would naturally take good care of Xiao Yi. She had no right to ask, so she smiled apologetically. "Uncle Li, I didn't mean anything else." "I understand, Miss Xia." Uncle Li was a kind person. He smiled kindly and said, "I know Miss Xia is sincerely looking out for the young master. The sun is still very hot outside. You should rest for a while before leaving." "No, I have to go home to take care of the children." "Uncle Li, thank you for your hospitality." Xia Dong was grateful that he deliberately gave her the opportunity to be alone with Xiao Yi. The maid sent the cake and drinks to Xiao Yi's room. He asked expressionlessly, "Why isn't she coming up?" The maid was stunned for a moment before she reacted. "Young master, Miss Xia is leaving." Xiao Yi jumped down from the chair and ran to the stairs. He happened to see Xia Dong saying goodbye to the butler and then walking towards the garage under the scorching sun. There was a hint of struggle in his eyes. In the end, he gritted his teeth and ran back to his room without looking back. The cake was soft, fragrant, and sweet. It tasted very good. After eating one piece, he couldn't help but want to eat a second piece. However, the maid refused to cut the cake for him. "Young master, Miss Xia instructed before she left that you can't eat too much dessert. Otherwise, you won't be able to eat dinner tonight." Xiao Yi's face darkened and he didn't say anything. "Although you can't eat cake anymore, Miss Xia still prepared purple potato balls for you." The maid brought over a small plate of purple potato balls. It was really a very small stack. Xiao Yi counted and there were only 5 in total. After Xiao Yi ate one, his eyes immediately became heart-shaped. It was too delicious. Unfortunately, it was very little. The maid seemed to see his regret. She smiled and said, when Miss Xia left, she had already refrigerated the purple potato balls. "If you like them, the chef can make more for you tomorrow." Xiao Yi suddenly pushed the empty plate away and said coldly, "Don't mention her in front of me in the future." What was she doing now? Was she trying to make it up to him? Did she think that he would forgive her if she treated him a little better? Bailey Han deliberately got off work early and went home early. However, he still missed Xia Dong, so he was a little upset. The butler observed his expression and took out the mango glutinous rice paste from the fridge. He put it on a snow-white plate and placed it in front of him. "Young master, Miss Xia specially asked me to leave this for you." Bailey Han's lips immediately curled up. He didn't really like sweets, but because she made it, it was full of temptation in his eyes. He picked up a glutinous rice paste and took a small bite. The glutinous rice paste was fragrant and soft, and the sweetness was very light. It wasn't greasy at all, and it was cold to the touch. It spread from his mouth to his stomach. He took a second bite and there was the sweetness of mango. He frowned. "There's mango?" The butler was shocked. "I'm sorry, young master. I didn't know it was mango-flavored." Bailey Han said lightly, "It's okay." He took another bite. The butler was so anxious that he stomped his feet. "Young master, you're allergic to mangoes. Don't eat it." Bailey Han acted as if he didn't hear him. He finished the glutinous rice paste in his hand and reached out for the rest on the plate. The butler was so excited that he wanted to snatch the plate, but under his sharp gaze, he could only give up on the idea. The butler watched him eat the glutinous rice paste without batting an eyelid and tears streamed down his face. "It's over, it's over. Young master will definitely be allergic." Bailey Han quickly finished the remaining 3 glutinous rice paste on the plate. As the butler expected, in less than 10 minutes, he had a red rash all over his body, including his face. His lips were swollen, and his handsome image was completely ruined. The next day, Xia Dong called the villa. It was the butler who picked up. "Uncle Li, has Xiao Yi recovered from his cold?" The butler sighed. "Young master's illness has recovered, but young master is sick again." Xia Dong was shocked. "What's wrong with Bailey Han?" The butler hesitated for a moment and said, "Young master is allergic to mangoes." Xia Dong immediately thought of the mango glutinous rice paste she made and felt bad. She had done it out of kindness, but she didn't expect that it would harm him. "Is it serious?" "He has a red rash all over his body and it's very itchy. Although he took anti-allergy medicine, the rash still hasn't subsided." Xia Dong felt even more guilty. "Is he at home today?" "Yes, young master can't go to the company in his current state." If young master, who had a red rash and a sausage mouth, went to the company, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. His image as a Prince Charming would be completely ruined. Xia Dong was so ashamed that she couldn't show her face. "Uncle Li, is there anything else he's allergic to or doesn't like? Please let me know." "Young master is allergic to mangoes and peaches. He doesn't like sweets. He's fine with other things, but he has high standards for taste." Young master Bailey's mouth was picky, and this was a well-known fact in the Bailey family. "Okay, I got it. Thank you." Xia Dong was responsible for the trouble she caused. She specially consulted the doctor and spent more than 2 hours making a pot of rock sugar white fungus soup. She specially sent it to Bailey Han's house. When she saw Bailey Han, she almost didn't recognize him. He was wearing a long shirt and trousers to cover the red rash on his body, but the rash on his face was completely exposed. The red and swollen lips had subsided a lot, but he still looked funny, a little like Liang Chao's sausage mouth in East Meets West. Attention, Hung Cha 866. Chapter 172. Xia Dong came with a heart of remorse, but when she saw him like this, her shoulders couldn't help but tremble suspiciously. Bailey Han was calm and said mildly, "If you think it's funny, then don't hold it in." "Pfft, I'm sorry." Xia Dong hurriedly covered her mouth and tried her best to hold back her laughter. It took a lot of effort for her to disperse the laughter. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were allergic to mangoes. She embarrassedly placed the food box on the table. I made rock sugar white fungus soup to apologize to you. I know you don't like sweets, so I put very little sugar in it. He watched as she scooped the white fungus soup from the food box into a small bowl and said mildly, "It has nothing to do with you. It's me. After I found out that the filling was mangoes, I ate it all." Xia Dong felt like she had been fooled by him. Her tone was a little harsh. "Why did you finish it? You know you're allergic to it." He said mildly, "You made this especially for me. I didn't want to waste it." Xia Dong froze. The small bowl in her hand felt heavy. She had mixed feelings and couldn't help but say, "You're crazy. Are you going to swallow the arsenic that I gave you?" "If you want me to swallow it, I will." He smiled. Although his face was covered in rashes, Xia Dong felt that he was as handsome as before. Her nose twitched as if she had choked on chili. Xia Dong placed the small bowl in front of him and grabbed her bag to leave. "I have something to do. I'll leave first." Just as she took 2 steps, her wrist was grabbed. His voice was mellow and magnetic. "Xia Dong, I'm very happy that you came to see me. Bailey Han, don't misunderstand. I only came to see you because I feel guilty." Xia Dong hurriedly distanced herself from him, afraid that he would have any ideas. "Even so, I'm still very happy." Bailey Han approached her and hugged her from behind. She was shocked and struggled violently. He whispered, "Don't move. Let me hug you for a while." Only a fool wouldn't move. Xia Dong was anxious and angry. She struggled and said in a low voice, "Bailey Han, don't mess around. If someone sees us, let me go." He chuckled. "You mean, as long as no one sees me, I can fool around, right?" As he spoke, his hands had already moved to her abdomen. His palms gently covered it. Although he couldn't feel the baby's movements, his heart softened. He really wanted to know what their baby would look like when it was born. Would it look like her or him? His hand landed on her abdomen, so she didn't dare to move. She was afraid that he would use too much force and hurt the baby. She gritted her teeth and said, "Bailey Han, when did you become so shameless? Let me go." He said in a low voice, "If I'm not shameless, how can I trap you?" Her body froze. After a moment of silence, she said coldly, "Bailey Han, I thought I made myself clear enough. I'm Mika Kito's fiancé. If you want to flirt, please find someone else." Anger surged from his heart. His voice became low and cold. "Do you want to get involved with Mika Kito so badly?" She laughed coldly. "I'm his fiancé. There's no need to pull strings. I know that your engagement is fake. Don't use this reason to brush me off in the future, okay?" "Xia xia." He suddenly moved closer to her ear and used an extremely ambiguous posture and tone to slowly whisper into her ear. "Xia xia." He had wanted to call her that for a long time. Xia Dong was silent for a long time. Then she said seriously, "Bailey Han, let's talk." In the study, they sat facing each other. Xia Dong lowered her eyes and said slowly, "Because of my parents, I don't believe that love can last forever, and I don't believe that marriage can last a lifetime. So, I'm not a fan of marriage." Her father had abandoned her and her mother to marry Su Murong and give birth to Su Xingqian. Her mother had set fire to herself and died when she was in the 6th grade of primary school. This was the information that Bailey Han understood. He frowned slightly. "Your father's actions don't represent all men. Why don't you give me a chance and give yourself a chance?" She looked up at him and laughed mockingly. "What do you like about me? In my opinion, your love for me is only temporary. After that, you'll definitely abandon me like Su Yunqian." Anger rose in Bailey Han's heart. "How do you know that my feelings for you are only temporary? How can you be sure that it's my fault for breaking up with Su Yunqian?" That I'm fickle in love with the new and hate the old? Alright then, I'll give you a chance to refute. Bailey Han's pupils suddenly shrank. He didn't want to publicize Su Yunqian's wrongdoings, but at the same time, he didn't want to be misunderstood by her. After deliberating over his words, he said, I used to love Yunqian deeply, but she's become more and more unrecognizable to me. Some of her actions hurt the people I care about and destroyed my trust in her. Xia Dong sneered. Then I'll congratulate you. Soon, you'll realize that the real me is not the same person as what you think and what you see on the surface. I'm also good at pretending, and I'll hurt the people you care about. When that time comes, you'll abandon me without hesitation. Bailey Han blurted out, that's different. Her gaze was sharp. How is it different? He was speechless for a moment and didn't know how to answer. She laughed mockingly. See, you're not sure either, Bailey Han. You can't give me a long-term love and marriage. Putting aside your own factors, your family won't accept me first. Bailey's family hated her to the core. How could they agree to him marrying her? This was a fact that should have been made clear to him earlier so that he would give up on the idea. His face was gloomy, as if he was thinking, but also as if he was angry. She got up to leave, but he didn't ask her to stay. When she reached the door of the study, he suddenly said, Xia Dong, the only person I want to grow old with now is you. Her back was facing him, and her heart trembled. An inexplicable emotion surrounded her, but she didn't turn around. She walked out of the study and out of the villa. The house was empty. She didn't meet anyone, and she didn't see Xiao Yi either. She didn't know why, but her heart felt a little empty. Xia Dong reflected on herself. During this period of time, she had been too close to Bailey Han, but she didn't expect trouble to come knocking on her door so quickly. The next day, old madam knocked on her door with a gloomy face. Xiao Bao could tell that something was wrong. Worried that her mother would be taken advantage of, the first thing she did after returning to her room was to call Bailey Han and inform him. Then, she hid at the living room door to eavesdrop. You went to Han's villa yesterday and the day before. Old madam went straight to the point. You seem to have turned a deaf ear to my words and never took them to heart. Xia Dong said mildly, I'm sorry. It's my fault this time. It won't happen again. Old madam's expression was ugly. Xia Dong, you know that I don't want an apology. I want action. Back then, you and I signed an agreement that if we had a boy, he would be raised by the Bailey family, and if we had a girl, you would take her away. You were the one who played tricks and escaped to Japan. Han also got into a car accident because of you and almost lost his life. Forget it. I don't want to be calculative with you over these past events. Back then, when I brought Xiao Yi back to the Bailey family, you promised me that you wouldn't get close to Xiao Yi and that you wouldn't come back to disturb Han's life. You kept going back on your word, and I can't trust you anymore. Xia Dong's heart tightened. What happened to Bailey Han's car accident? Old madam snorted coldly. Wasn't it because you didn't want to give the child to the Bailey family and escape to Japan? Han got into a car accident on the way to the airport to chase after you. Xia Dong's heart sank. She really didn't expect that Bailey Han's car accident was because of her. I'm sorry, I really didn't know. Xia Dong murmured painfully. I didn't leave because I didn't want to give the child to the Bailey family. I left because, I don't want to know the reason. Old madam interrupted her. I won't believe anything you say anymore. Xia Dong, I'll give you 1 month. I want you to get married to Mika Keto within this month and break Han's heart. If you don't get married, I'll take away Xiao Yi's inheritance rights and send him to England. He won't be allowed to step into the Bailey family's door for the rest of his life. I won't let you and your son see each other for the rest of your life. You can't treat Xiao Yi like this. He's also a descendant of the Bailey family. Our Bailey family needs obedient and loyal descendants. We don't need a descendant with a lowly mother like you. Xia Dong felt like her heart was being cut by a knife. She thought old madam loved Xiao Yi very much, but she didn't expect her to be so selfish. If you marry Mika Kido and Gigai and cut off all contact with Ahan and Xiao Yi will still be my precious great-grandson and will have the absolute inheritance rights of the family. Xia Dong, as his mother, all you can give him is scandal and humiliation. Don't you think about his future? Old madam seemed to be speaking earnestly, but in fact, every word she said was trampling on Xia Dong's self-esteem. She was already full of guilt towards Xiao Yi, so she could only give him what she thought was best from a mother's point of view. Xia Dong closed her eyes and said, "Okay, I agree to your conditions. However, you have to promise me that no matter who Bailey Han marries in the future or how many children he has, you can't mistreat Xiao Yi because you favor them." Old madam said coldly, "Of course. If you don't exist, Xiao Yi will always be my most beloved great-grandson." As their negotiation came to an end, the doorbell suddenly rang. Xia Dong didn't expect Bailey Han to suddenly appear. His allergic symptoms had subsided and he had regained his usual handsome face. However, at this moment, his expression was serious and anxious. He put his hands on her shoulders and asked nervously, "Are you okay?" Old madam heard the sound and walked over from the living room. She snorted coldly and said, "What can happen to her? Why did you suddenly come here?" She looked at Xia Dong suspiciously. "Did you inform him?" Beauty novel, Hung Cha 866. Chapter 173. That's not it. It has nothing to do with Xia Dong. Bailey Han denied flatly. He turned his body and stood in front of Xia Dong. "Grandma, what did you talk about with Xia Dong?" The old madam's voice was stern. "It doesn't matter what I talked about with her. What's important is that you're not allowed to see her again. Look at how she has led you astray." Bailey Han glanced at the pale-faced Xia Dong and held her by the shoulders. He was domineering and irresistible. There was a determined look on his handsome face. "Grandma, I love Xia Dong. I want to marry her." Xia Dong's body froze. She was overwhelmed with shock. Her heart was in a mess and she didn't know what to do. The old madam stabbed her walking stick into the ground. She looked sharply at Xia Dong and said sternly, "Even if I die, I won't allow her to enter Bailey's house." Bailey Han's deep eyes were like a storm. He clenched his fists and the veins on the back of his hands were throbbing. He seemed to have suppressed his anger to the extreme. His thin lips moved and he said angrily, "Grandma, if you insist on not accepting Xia Dong, I will sever all ties with Bailey's family. She wants to marry me, not Bailey's family." Xia Dong turned her head abruptly and stared at him in disbelief. No, things shouldn't be like this. His feelings for her were only temporary. He wouldn't marry her, and he wouldn't fight against his family for her. The old madam was furious. Her fingers trembled as she pointed at his nose and scolded him, "You unfilial son. I raised you for nothing. How dare you say such disgraceful things for a woman? Good, very good. I'll beat you to death now so that you don't anger our family to death." The old madam picked up her walking stick and swung it at Bailey Han. Seeing that Bailey Han was standing there foolishly, Xia Dong instinctively threw herself at him and blocked the walking stick. A heavy blow landed on the back of her shoulder, causing her to hiss in pain as she sucked in a few breaths of cold air. Bailey Han hugged her anxiously. Xia, are you all right? Why are you so silly? Why did you block it for me?" Xia Dong smiled bitterly. Why? Even she didn't know why. By the time she reacted, she was already on top of him. The old madam's expression. She didn't expect that Xia Dong would block the blow. Xia, let me take a look at your injury." Bailey Han held her waist and wanted to check her injury, but she grabbed his hand. "Old madam, Mr. Bailey, as the party involved, I would like to say something." Xia Dong's expression was indifferent. "I've never thought of marrying into the Bailey's family, so the issue you're arguing about doesn't exist. The old madam pursed her lips. She was obviously satisfied with her words. Xia Dong felt terrible, but she squeezed out a smile. Mr. Bailey, I think you might have misunderstood something. I won't marry you. You, Bailey Han glared at her angrily. Before he could finish speaking, his head started to hurt. It was as if a nerve in his head had been violently jerked. He held his forehead with one hand and his expression was terrible. Pain. His head hurt more and more. The jerking turned into a beating drum. He could even hear the thumping sound. His expression became more and more terrible. His brows furrowed in pain and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He held his forehead with one hand and supported himself against the wall with the other to support himself. Xia Dong saw that he was in pain and wanted to help him up, but she remembered the old madam's words and restrained herself. The old madam's expression changed. She stomped her walking stick and said anxiously, "Ahan, what's wrong?" "My head hurts, quick, call an ambulance." The old madam was so anxious that she forgot that she was in someone else's house and didn't know who she was ordering. Xia Dong didn't care so much. She trotted to the living room and picked up the phone. Bailey Han's pain in his head subsided quickly like a tide. Bailey Han took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. "No, I'm fine." The old madam was worried. "Are you really okay?" "I'm fine." Hearing that he was fine, the old madam didn't feel relieved at all. She still felt heavy. She knew that what she was worried about might happen. "Ahan, if that's the case, let's not disturb them here. Take care." Xia Dong deliberately avoided Bailey Han's gaze and looked down at her feet. He was so angry that he gritted his teeth, but because the old madam was present, he could only hold it in. The sound of footsteps gradually faded away. Xia Dong leaned against the door and couldn't calm down for a long time. The back of her shoulder was still hurting, but she wasn't in the mood to care about it. She was like a walking corpse. She walked to the sofa and sat down. All the strength in her body had been sucked away. She felt very sorry for Bailey Han. When she saw his pained expression when he had a headache, her heart also ached. Xiao Bao was shocked by part of the truth that he had eavesdropped on. He was petrified on the spot and only came to his senses after Bailey Han and the old madam left. He wanted to go forward to check on his mommy's injuries, but he was afraid that she would be angry if she found out that he had eavesdropped. He could only move his short legs back to his room. He secretly dialed Yisiki's number. "Hey, baby, why did you suddenly think of calling Auntie Siki?" "Auntie Siki, can I ask you something?" "Sure, what do you want to know?" "Auntie Siki, why did my mommy leave China for Japan 5 years ago?" Yisiki frowned. "Baby, why are you asking this question?" Xiao Bao lowered his voice and sounded very depressed. "I heard Bailey Yi's great-grandmother say that mommy eloped with Uncle Beitang." Yisiki was furious and blurted out, "Don't listen to her nonsense. Your mommy encountered some bad things back then and almost lost her life. That's why she hid in Japan to seek refuge." "Auntie Siki, then do you know why my mommy got together with Bailey Han and had us?" Yisiki gritted her teeth. "Baby, Auntie Siki doesn't know about this either. You're still young, so don't ask about these things anymore." After all, it was hard to talk about Xia's adultery. How could she tell her child? Xiao Bao said in a low voice, "Oh, I won't ask again." He at least understood one thing. Mommy didn't run to Japan on purpose like old madam said. She had her reasons for abandoning Xiao Yi. Xiao Bao sighed and frowned. Was Xiao Yi his younger brother? Or was he his older brother? Little Wingzi hated his mommy for abandoning him. She had to tell him the truth as soon as possible. "Yes, it's decided." Xiao Bao didn't know Bailey Yi's cell phone number, so he called the villa's landline. The housekeeper picked up. "Hello, I'm looking for Bailey Yi." The housekeeper picked up the phone and heard a young child's voice. Puzzled, he asked, "Who is this?" Tell Bailey E that I'm Xia Xiaobao. So it's young Master Xia. Please wait a moment. I'll connect the call to little master right away. Because Bailey Han had once hosted Xia Dong and her children at the villa, the housekeeper, who had an excellent memory, still remembered Xiao Bao. Xiao Yi didn't expect Xiao Bao to call him. He looked indifferent. Xia Xiao Bao, why are you looking for me? Bailey Yi, I want to tell you something. To ensure that this matter won't be eavesdropped on by a second person, I'll call your cell phone to tell you. Tell me your cell phone number now. Although Xiao Yi was a little impatient, his curiosity prompted him to tell Xiao Bao his cell phone number. Soon, Xiao Bao hung up the phone and called him. Xiao Bao didn't beat around the bush and said directly, actually, you've misunderstood Mom. She didn't abandon you on purpose back then. She had her reasons. When Xiao Yi heard him mention Xia Dong, his expression turned ugly. He pursed his lips and said coldly, what other reasons could there be? She's just selling her son for glory. These days, he had been thinking hard about why she would abandon him. In the end, he could only come up with this answer. Xiao Bao's anger was stuck in his chest. He said angrily, Bailey Yi, how can you say that about Mommy? She's not that kind of person. Can you listen to what I have to say before you give your opinion? Xiao Yi pursed his lips and said slowly, then tell me. I'm listening. Xiao Bao scratched his head. I don't know what happened between Mommy and Bailey Han 5 years ago. Anyway, Mommy was pregnant and had us. After that, Mommy was in danger. In order to protect us and her life, she had to leave China. However, your great-grandmother mistakenly thought that Mommy was trying to escape, so when she gave birth, she forcefully carried you back to Bailey's house. Xiao Yi was silent for a long time. Why should I believe you? Also, why didn't my great-grandmother carry Xiao Guai or you back, but me? Your great-grandmother came to cause trouble for Mommy just now. I recorded part of their conversation. If you don't believe me, I'll play it for you immediately. As for why your great-grandmother carried you away and not me, I'm not sure. Maybe Mommy hid the 2 children back then. Xiao Bao didn't wait for him to answer. He directly turned on the recording pen and played the recording. This recording started from when the old madam forced Xia Dong to get married within a month. It only ended when Bailey Han appeared and left with the old madam. After the recording ended, there was no sound from the other side of the phone for a long time. Xiao Bao said worriedly, Bailey E, are you okay? Bailey E. Xiao Yi clenched his fists and suppressed his sobs. He heard it clearly. It was indeed his great-grandmother who forced that woman to come and see him. She didn't allow her to acknowledge him. Then, it was his great-grandmother who forcefully carried him back from that woman back then, right? Why did his great-grandmother do that? Why did she use him to force her? Bailey E. Xiao Bao's imagination bubbled up. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to take the blow and would do something stupid. He anxiously called out his name. Bailey E, don't do anything stupid. Awesome novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 174. Xiao Yi bit his lip, wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, and said fiercely, what kind of stupid thing could I do? Let me tell you, Xia Xiaobao, even if we're brothers, I'll still be the older brother. Xiao Bao was stunned, then suddenly grinned and said proudly, that's not necessarily true. You'll have to ask Mommy to find out. Xiao Yi snorted, looking insufferably arrogant. I don't need to ask to know. It must be because I was born first. Great-grandmother didn't know that Mommy was pregnant with triplets, so she only took me away. Xiao Bao had to admit that his analysis made sense. Mommy fled to Japan while she was pregnant, so the Bailey family definitely didn't know that she was pregnant with triplets, so they only took the firstborn child away. Something didn't seem right. What was it? Xiao Bao scratched his head and thought for a while, then suddenly shouted, you just called Mommy. Xiao Yi choked, then stiffened his neck and retorted, I didn't. You clearly did. I heard it just now. I didn't. You did. The two of them didn't give in to each other and argued for a long time. In the end, Xiao Bao said angrily, forget it, I'm not going to argue with you. Let me tell you, we're biological brothers, and Xiao Guai is sick and mommy is close to Bei Li Han. You're not allowed to tell anyone about it. You made an oath. Right now, the old madam still didn't know that he and Xiao Guai were also Bei Li Han's children. If this secret was exposed, it was very likely that they would be forcefully taken away again. He didn't want to become a child without a mother. From that recording, Xiao Yi already knew the seriousness of the matter, so naturally, he wouldn't tell anyone. What's more, when he made the vow, he said that if he broke the vow, his mommy would never be reincarnated. Although he still didn't admit that woman was his mommy, in fact, he already secretly admitted it in his heart, he didn't want her to never be reincarnated. Hey, Xiao Bao was silent for a moment before suddenly shouting, Xiao Yi, I think Bei Li Han likes mommy a lot. Why don't we matchmake them? Although, actually, I like Uncle Shen more, Xiao Yi gritted her teeth. How can you do this? My daddy is also your daddy. You should support our daddy. Xiao Bao raised her chin coolly. I haven't acknowledged him as my daddy yet. Aren't you the same? You haven't acknowledged mommy yet, right? Xiao Yi snorted. That's different. Xiao Bao retorted sharply, how is it different? You think that mommy abandoned you, but from my perspective, Bei Li Han also abandoned me and Xiao Guai. Xiao Yi choked on his words and said angrily, that's because daddy doesn't know of your existence. I don't care. Abandonment is abandonment. Xiao Bao's eyes darted around, and a strange smile appeared on her lips. How about this? I'll acknowledge Bei Li Han, and you'll acknowledge mommy. I don't want to. Although he had already started to accept it, he still felt a little awkward emotionally. What an awkward guy. Xiao Bao rolled her eyes and said indifferently, all right then, let's continue to separate. Your great-grandmother forced my mommy to marry Uncle Shen within a month. Anyway, Uncle Shen loves us a lot. I'm more than happy that he's our daddy. But it's different for you. If your great-grandmother forced your daddy to marry Su Yunqian, you can just wait to suffer. Xiao Yi gritted her teeth. She knew that he was trying to goad her, but it was very effective because what he said made a lot of sense. After hesitating for a moment, she said, all right, I agree with your suggestion. However, I won't be convinced by you. I want Gigai to have a complete family. All right. Xiao Bao smiled. She didn't care what excuse he came up with. As long as he agreed, it was fine. Xiao Yi frowned, her little face full of seriousness. It's good that we acknowledge each other in our hearts. Don't show it. Otherwise, if great-grandmother finds out, she'll make things difficult for her again. Make things difficult for who? Xiao Bao teased her deliberately. Xiao Yi was furious. You know who I'm talking about. Xiao Bao laughed. If you don't tell me who you're talking about, how would I know who you're talking about? Xiao Yi's mouth twitched. I don't want to play tongue twisters with you anymore. Anyway, we'll keep the status quo on the surface in the future. Xiao Bao shrugged. Of course I know. I'm not stupid. This little brother of hers was really despicable. So annoying. Would it kill him to express a little respect for his older brother? Would it kill him? Xiao Yi cursed in her heart, hey, Bei Li Yi, are you still alive? I haven't been angered to death by you yet. The two brats came to an agreement. They felt that it would be very difficult to matchmake Xia Dong and Bei Li Han with just the two of them. They had to canvass for votes and win over all the supporters they could. But other than the two of them, who else could they win over? Xiao Yi's eyes lit up and her pink lips curled up. Xiao Bao, my Auntie Jing is coming back. Great-grandma listens to Auntie Jing. If Auntie Jing is on our side and helps us persuade great-grandma, it will be much easier. Xiao Bao rubbed his chin. When is your Auntie Jing coming back? Next week. But it will be very difficult to persuade your Auntie Jing to stand on our side. How are you going to tell her about our background? Xiao Yi thought for a moment and said, of course we can't tell her directly. Auntie Jing is best friends with Daddy. If Daddy asks her, she will definitely agree. Alright, this will be a supporting plan. The main person to carry out the plan will still be you. Xiao Bao raised his eyebrows and giggled. If you suddenly fall ill and don't recognize anyone, and don't let anyone come close except for my mommy, the Bailey family will definitely let my mommy take care of you. Xiao Yi's mouth twitched. Your idea is similar to how I pretended to be autistic. But don't you think it will be very fake if we do it a second time? Are you stupid? We can make it very real. Who said that we can't use the same method a second time? That's not the point. The point is whether great-grandma will ask her to take care of me for my sake. Xiao Yi was a little depressed. He had to admit that old madam using him to threaten Xia Dong was a huge blow to him. He even started to doubt if old madam was really good to him. A child's heart was actually very fragile. Xiao Bao thought for a moment and nodded solemnly. I think so. Your great-grandma still loves you a lot. Also, we have to carry out the plan as soon as possible. Otherwise, when Uncle Shin comes back. Boo-hoo, he suddenly felt very guilty. He had let Uncle Shin down. What should he do? Xia Dong was still in a daze on the sofa. She held her forehead and had a headache. She was going to marry Mika Kito within a month. How was she going to tell him that she was going to use him as a shield? Calculating the time, he should be back from Japan in at most half a month. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. She saw who it was through the peephole and quickly opened the door. Aunt, why are you here? Xia Yun rushed in with a big bag. She said that she was here to help her settle her marriage. She placed the things in the living room and pushed the stunned Xia Dong into the room. Quick, change your clothes. Before coming, I signed you up for a TV dating show. It's going to be recorded tonight. Ah, really? Xia Dong was scared out of her wits. She quickly found an excuse. Aunt, I have to take care of Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao. I don't have time to participate in a dating show. Xia Yun smiled. What are you afraid of? I'm here. I'll stay here to take care of Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai. You go to the TV station to record the show. Of course, I'll personally escort you to the TV station. Aunt, okay, hurry up and change your clothes. Xia Dong was pushed into the room by Xia Yun. She quickly called Yisiki for help. Unexpectedly, when Yisiki heard it, he laughed heartily. He said that he didn't expect Aunt Xia to be so powerful and so ruthless. Xia Dong grabbed her hair angrily. Yezi, are you my friend or not? I'm so anxious, but you're still gloating over my misfortune. Isn't it just a dating show? Go ahead. At most, you'll act a little better. The moment you start, you'll say that you have 3 children. Won't those men be scared away by you? It's fine if I embarrass myself, but the problem is that I don't want to drag the children into this. Xia Dong sighed. Think about it. This show is for the whole city. If people find out that I'm Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai's mother, they'll laugh at them. That's true. Then let's do it this way. Try to reduce your presence as much as possible so that people won't notice you. Chapter 175. Xia, look at this one. 35 years old, farmer entrepreneur. Although he's not very educated, he's honest and knows how to make money. Then look at this one. 32 years old, university language teacher. He's cultured and talented. And this one. 31 years old, white-collar elite, handsome and confident. He's a department manager in a foreign trade company. Xia Yun took the photos and introduced them one by one as if he was very familiar with them. Xia Dong didn't want to dampen her enthusiasm. Under her urging, from the first photo to the last, there were more than 30 candidates. Xia, there are 32 people here. You can choose a few suitable ones. I'll ask your Auntie Li to arrange a time for the meeting. Xia Dong rubbed her eyebrows. Aunt, do I really have to choose? Xia Yun raised her eyebrows. Of course. Why else would I spend so much effort? Okay then. Xia Dong took the photos and looked at them carefully. During the process of choosing, she suddenly had an idea. Since she didn't want to use Brother Shen as a shield, she might as well find someone to fake a marriage. Anyway, old madam only wanted her to get married. It shouldn't be a big deal to change the marriage partner. Suddenly, she had a chance. Xia Dong selected carefully. In the end, she eliminated a few men who were particularly good, leaving behind 5 men who looked especially honest and easy to communicate with. Aunt, I've chosen. It's them. Xia Yun took the photos and looked at them carefully. These 5 men were not the best overall, but they were not bad. She was quite satisfied and said, Xia, I'll ask your Auntie Li to arrange it quickly. You should buy a few more clothes and dress yourself up in the next 2 days. Xia Dong smiled and said, okay. Xia Yun was impatient and didn't wait until she got home. She directly contacted Xia Dong's old friend and asked her to help arrange a meeting between the 5 men and Xia Dong. Coincidentally, one of the 5 ladies happened to be on leave today and had time. He asked Auntie Li to help him arrange a blind date. Auntie Li immediately set a time and place for him and Xia Dong to meet, at 4:00 in the afternoon at Blue's Mood Cafe. No way, Auntie, we're meeting in the afternoon. She was not mentally prepared at all. The earlier we meet, the earlier we make a decision. The earlier I marry you off, the earlier I can be at ease. Alright, I got it. I'll leave Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai in your care then. After lunch, Xia Dong was chased into her room by Xia Yun. Xia Yun told her to put on makeup and change her clothes. Xia Dong was in such a hurry. She tried out one outfit after another, matching shoes and bags. Her movements were so loud that even Xiao Bao and Xiao Guai knew about it. The 2 little guys squeezed into her room to watch the fun. Xiao Guai said in a childish voice, Mommy, Great Aunt said that you're going on a blind date. What about Uncle Shen? Oh, and Uncle Bailey, he also wants to marry you. Suddenly hearing Bailey Han's name, Xia Dong's heart skipped a beat. She actually felt flustered. She knocked on her daughter's forehead to cover it up. What nonsense are you talking about? Go back to your room and take a nap. Otherwise, Mommy will be angry. Xiao Guai stuck out her tongue. Alright, Mommy, don't be angry. I'll go and rest now. After coaxing one little guy away, there was still another. Xiao Bao crossed his arms and puffed up his cheeks. He looked at her sternly. Mom, are you really going to marry someone else? Aren't you going to consider marrying Bailey Han? Don't mention Bailey Han anymore. Xia Dong had a headache. She put on a pitiful face. Baby, Mommy is already very frustrated. Don't mention this again, okay? Xiao Bao shrugged helplessly. It seemed that he still needed to do something. When Xia Dong went out, Suzaku naturally followed. The 2 entered the cafe one after the other. Xia Dong was led to the agreed seat by the waiter. Suzaku sat down at the door. The blind date had already arrived. He was wearing a white shirt, black trousers, and a pair of black-rimmed glasses. He couldn't be considered handsome, but his facial features were regular and he looked simple and honest. The man stood up and politely said, Miss Xia. I'm Zhou Zijian. Hello, Mr. Zhou. Xia Dong politely reached out to shake his hand. Zhou Zijian smiled gently and handed over a menu. Xia Dong glanced at it briefly and ordered a cup of fresh orange juice. Ever since she became pregnant, she hadn't drunk coffee or tea. A cup of fresh orange juice and a cup of cappuccino. Zhou Zijian returned the menu to the waiter. Miss Xia, what do you do for a living? Before the drinks were served, Zhou Zijian took the initiative to speak. Xia Dong smiled. I used to be a fashion magazine editor. Now, I'm idle at home. The smile on Zhou Zijian's face disappeared as he calmly said, I'm more in favor of equality between men and women. I also support my wife to have her own career. I feel that women should first be financially independent. Only then will they be more confident in their relationships. The waiter brought the orange juice and drinks. Xia Dong took a sip of the orange juice and smiled faintly. You're right. I also feel that women should have their own careers. Zhou Zijian nodded. May I ask if Miss Xia has any plans for her future? Xia Dong's slender fingers tapped on the table. Mr. Zhou, actually, I'm not here for a blind date. I'm here to discuss a business deal. Zhou Zijian frowned. What do you mean? Xia Dong smiled. Let's get married. Zhou Zijian was stunned. Before he could answer, a black figure rushed over like a gust of wind. A cold voice exploded beside them. I don't agree. Xia Dong was stunned. She raised her head and looked to the side of the coffee table. Bailey Han's handsome and tall figure stood in front of her. His exquisite and perfect features were filled with anger. His dark eyes were as sharp as a hawk's. Why are you here? If I didn't come, how would I know that you're on a blind date and that you're planning to marry this man? Bailey Han was furious. When he received Xiao Bao's call and found out that Xia Dong was on a blind date, he immediately abandoned the meeting and drove over. The first thing he heard was that she wanted to marry that man. The people around them looked over curiously. Zhou Zijian couldn't help but ask, Miss Xia, who is this gentleman? Xia Dong's head hurt. He's just an ordinary friend of mine. Ordinary friend? Bailey Han snorted coldly. He grabbed Xia Dong's wrist and pulled her up from her seat. He pulled her into his arms domineeringly and stared at Zhou Zijian with his malicious eyes. I'm not an ordinary friend. I'm her boyfriend and will soon become her husband. Don't talk nonsense. There's nothing between us. Xia Dong struggled hard, but his arms and chest were like an iron wall that trapped her tightly. Bailey Han was so angry that he laughed. A complicated look flashed across his eyes and his voice suddenly became gentle. Baby, stop fooling around. Although my family doesn't agree to our marriage, I've already decided on you and will love you for the rest of my life. Believe me, I'll definitely make them accept you. His hand caressed her abdomen, and he said gently, Look, we even have a baby. How can we be considered ordinary friends? His voice was clearly very gentle, but Xia Dong felt a chill in her bones and couldn't help but shiver. The people around them looked at their table as if they were watching a good show. Zhou Zijian flew into a rage out of humiliation. He stood up and said coldly, Miss Xia, I didn't expect you to be this kind of woman. You've disappointed me. Bailey Han hugged Xia Dong and stared at Zhou Zijian fiercely. His entire body exuded an oppressive aura. My woman is not for you to judge. His eyes were like those of a ferocious beast, filled with a sense of tool. Zhou Zijian actually felt a little scared, but he couldn't afford to lose. He raised his chin and said proudly, I'll comment. So what? A woman like her whose two-timing would be drowned in a pig's cage in ancient times. Bang! Just as he finished speaking, Bailey Han's fierce fist had already landed on his face. Bailey Han wanted to punch again, but Xia Dong hugged his arm tightly and said anxiously, What are you doing? Don't hit him. Zhou Zijian covered the bleeding corner of his mouth. He was timid and angry as he stared at Xia Dong. Damn it, all of this was caused by this B***tch. Get lost. Bailey Han shouted coldly. You just wait. I'll call the police. Zhou Zijian said stubbornly. Bailey Han sneered. Okay, my name is Bailey Han. Chapter 176. Bailey Han carried Xia Dong and strode out of the cafe under everyone's watchful eyes. Suzaku followed. Before he opened the car door, Suzaku blocked him and said coldly, Bailey Han, let go of Xia Dong. There were too many people in the cafe just now, so it was inconvenient for her to make a move. But now, she didn't care so much. Bailey Han sneered, if you have the ability, beat my bodyguard first. As soon as he finished speaking, a cold-faced man in a black suit suddenly appeared in front of them. Bailey Han said coldly, Du Bing, stop her. Suzaku suddenly attacked Bailey Han with her palm. Bailey Han carried Xia Dong and dodged to the side. Suzaku was tall, but her movements were extremely agile. She rushed in front of Suzaku like lightning and entangled her attack. Bailey Han let them fight to the death and carried Xia Dong to the front passenger seat. The moment he got into the car, Xia Dong wanted to escape. Unexpectedly, Du Bing, who was fighting with Suzaku, pressed her back against the car door as if she had eyes on the back of her head. Xia Dong couldn't push the door open no matter how hard she tried. The car started quickly. Xia Dong gave up the idea of escaping and stared at Bailey Han gloomily. Where are you taking me? You'll know soon. They sped all the way. When they arrived at the destination, Xia Dong looked up and almost vomited blood. There was a sign hanging on the door of the building with the words, City A's Civil Affairs Bureau, written on it. What was going on? Was she hallucinating? Bailey Han dragged Xia Dong's handbag over and took out her ID card from her wallet. He grabbed her arm and said, Get out of the car. No, I don't want to. Xia Dong hugged the car door tightly. Bailey Han, are you crazy? Why did you bring me here? We're here at the Civil Affairs Bureau to get our marriage certificate, of course. Don't tell me we're here for a day trip. Bailey Han retorted sharply and used the same trick again. He bent down and picked her up directly. If it weren't for the baby in her belly, he would have carried her on his shoulder to save energy and convenience, so that she wouldn't keep struggling. Bailey Han, let go of me. I don't want to marry you. Xia Dong pounded on his chest, kicked his legs, and bit his arm. She did everything she could to get him to leave. Bailey Han's face darkened. He lowered his head and glared at her. We even have a child together. If you don't marry me, who else do you want to marry? Child? Who said we have a child? The evidence is in your stomach. How dare you say you don't have it? You damned woman, I'll teach you a lesson after we get the marriage certificate. Bailey Han was almost angered to death by her. No, the child isn't yours. As they got closer to the Civil Affairs Bureau, Xia Dong was about to go crazy. She didn't give up and bit his arm. With tears in her eyes, she said vaguely, are you going to let go or not? Bailey Han let out a muffled groan as his brows furrowed in pain. Not letting go. Xia Dong held the door tightly with both hands and thought quickly. Bailey Han, marriage requires a household register. We don't have all the documents, so we can't go through with it. Bailey Han pulled hard, and her fingers slowly moved away from the door frame. Don't worry, I have all the documents, including your household register. Her fingers moved away from the door frame inch by inch. Xia Dong was so anxious that she burst into tears. Bailey Han, let me go, I don't want to get married. I can do anything you want, but not this. Bailey Han had steeled his heart and couldn't be bothered to feel sorry for her. With a fierce tug, her entire body fell into his embrace and they finally left the main door. The staff of the Civil Affairs Bureau was stunned to see a man carrying a crying woman into the Civil Affairs Bureau in a flustered and exasperated manner. The man's face darkened as he yelled that he had to get the marriage certificate today, and the woman cried and begged him to let her go. This pair didn't look like they were here to get married, but to get divorced. The staff wiped the sweat from his forehead and asked carefully, "Are you two really here to get married? Without coercion, and completely of your own free will?" "Not of our own free will." As soon as Xia Dong cried out, Bailey Han covered her mouth at lightning speed. His other hand quickly took out a pile of documents from his pocket and slammed them on the desk. "Absolutely of our own free will. These are our documents, please hurry up and get them processed." The staff saw that the woman kept blinking at him for help, and cold sweat dripped down his forehead. He wanted to say a few words of fairness, but after opening Bailey Han's household register and ID card, he immediately said seriously, "You two are indeed of your own free will. I'll process it for you now." It turned out that Bailey Han had already used his connections before he took Xia Dong to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Xia Dong was in despair. Had Bailey's black hand already reached out to the Civil Affairs Bureau? Because of the advance notice, a lot of procedures were skipped. During the photo shoot, Xia Dong refused to cooperate no matter what. In the end, with the help of 2 female staff, or to be exact, coercion, she was forced to take a photo with Bailey Han. The most miserable wedding photo in history was thus produced. Even many years later, when Xia Dong thought about it, she still hated it. After Bailey Han's scheme succeeded, he was overjoyed. He dragged along the disheartened Xia Dong and thanked the staff. The staff, especially the 2 who helped press Xia Dong's head, were full of guilt. They were afraid that Xia Dong would hate them for the rest of her life, so they smiled and waved their hands. They hurriedly sent them out, praying that they would not come tomorrow to process the divorce. "Bailey Han, you scoundrel, I hate you to death." After getting into the car and regaining her freedom, Xia Dong screamed and pounced on Bailey Han angrily. She bit his arm. That fierce bite caused blood to flow. Bailey Han gritted his teeth, but he did not make a sound. The taste of blood in her mouth stimulated Xia Dong's brain. She finally regained a trace of rationality. She loosened her teeth and glared at him with extreme hatred. Bailey Han smiled helplessly and patted her head. His eyes were full of affection. "Bite if you want. Vent your anger. Don't hold it in." Faced with his gentle gaze, Xia Dong suddenly couldn't bite down and started crying. She couldn't accept it. Half an hour ago, she was still Miss Xia, and now she was Mrs. Bailey. She didn't want to. When she cried, he panicked. He gently hugged her in his arms and coaxed her like a child. "Don't cry. Be good. I will love you for the rest of my life." He swore to God that this was the first time he had said such explicit words. He used to think that these words were mushy, but when he said it to her now, it was so natural. It was as if he had said it to her 1,000 times. "Wah!" She cried even louder. She hit his back hard with both hands. "Why are you doing this? Why? Don't you know that there are a lot of problems between us? It's impossible for us to be together. Because I love you. I don't want you to marry someone else. When I saw you go on blind dates with other people, I was so jealous that I almost went crazy." Bailey Han hugged her tightly. He wanted nothing more than to melt her into his body. After they became one, he would never have to worry about her leaving him again. Xia, don't be afraid. I know there are a lot of problems between us, but trust me. I will deal with it." He cupped her face and kissed the tears on her cheeks. His movements were gentle, as if he was treating a treasure. Xia, trust me." She cried and shook her head. She did not believe him. She did not believe him at all. Bailey's family hated her so much. How could they accept her? And he was so perfect and charming. How could he fall in love with a woman who had given birth to a child? And what if he remembered what happened 5 years ago one day? What would he do? "My life is already a mess. Bailey Han, I beg you. Let me go. Let's get a divorce. Let's get a divorce now. She grabbed the door handle agitatedly and tried to open the car door. He held her shoulders and turned her around to face him. He stared at her teary eyes and said word by word, I won't get a divorce. Don't even think about it. Xia Dong yelled in exasperation, but I don't love you at all. I don't want to marry, Bailey Han directly used his own mouth to block her chattering little mouth. He wanted to use practical actions to tell her that he was already her husband, and there was no room for resistance. Her lips were soft and sweet. His original intention of kissing her slowly changed. He was intoxicated by it. He covered her angry eyes with one hand and gently teased her. Bailey Han stuck out his tongue and gently swept it across Xia Dong's lips. He lifted it slightly and slipped his tongue into her mouth while she was still in shock. The warm tip of his tongue moved nimbly. Waves of numbness rose from the bottom of her heart. Xia Dong could not help but moan. At this moment, her entire body was limp and she had no strength to resist. Even her mind was a little muddled. His hand had unknowingly slid to her waist and under her clothes. He gently caressed her soft skin and a warm current rushed to his abdomen. He wanted to take her, but he still had some rationality left. He could not hurt the baby in her stomach. It took him a lot of effort to control himself. He let go of her lips and pulled her into his embrace. He breathed heavily and calmed down a certain part of his body that was proudly sticking out. Xia Dong was also panting. Her eyes were filled with confusion. She lay on his chest and rested for a long time before she recovered her senses. When she looked down, she happened to see a small tent in his pants. Her face flushed red and she hurriedly climbed out of his embrace. Her cheeks were red as she looked out of the window, not daring to look at him. Bailey Han suppressed his desire. Although he was still very uncomfortable, he was in a good mood when he saw her shy expression. He lifted his hand to stroke the hair by her ear and chuckled softly. Xia Xia, you have feelings for me too. I will make you fall in love with me. She was panting in his embrace just now. She was so soft and coquettish that he believed she had feelings for him. Because of his straightforward words, Xia Dong's face turned even redder. She said unhappily, pervert, I can't be bothered with you. Bailey Han laughed happily. His voice was low and hoarse and sounded extremely sexy. Attention, Xinwu 799. Chapter 177. The car had been on the road for half an hour. The ambiguity in the air had dissipated and Xia Dong had returned to normal. She coughed and asked, how did you get my household register? Bailey Han smirked. It's a secret. When he had the idea of getting the marriage certificate, he had mentioned it to Xiao Bao. Unexpectedly, not only did the little rascal not object, she even strongly supported it and even sent Xia Dong's household register to him. He couldn't help but wonder when the little rascal had become so kind. Xia Dong rolled her eyes. You don't have to tell me. You must have come to my house and stolen it. Bailey Han's smirk deepened, but he didn't explain. He couldn't betray the little rascal. Xia Dong pondered. Their marriage was already set in stone. No matter how much she cried, it wouldn't change this fact. She might as well gain his trust first, then steal the marriage certificate. She might as well go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to file for divorce. She didn't know if she could file for divorce without either party present. It didn't matter if she couldn't. She could ask Brother Shen for help. Yes, that's right. Right now, the most important thing was to keep their marriage a secret. Xia Dong rolled her eyes and said, Bailey Han, I want to discuss something with you. Bailey Han frowned and was unhappy. Xia, we're already married. Do you still have to call me by such a stiff title? Xia Dong had something to discuss with him, so she naturally lowered her attitude. Then I'll call you Han like your family. Bailey Han's lips curved. Call me hubby. No. Xia Dong resisted firmly. He snorted. I'm in a bad mood right now. I don't want to discuss anything. Okay, hubby, Xia Dong said the last two words after holding it in for a long time. She had goosebumps all over her body. That's nice. Call me that again. Bailey Han raised his eyebrows and was full of joy. She frowned and said angrily, Bailey Han, you did this on purpose. He sighed. Forget it, I won't force you. But I'm in a bad mood again. Xia Dong wanted to beat him up in her heart. She called out again in frustration, hubby. Yes, wife, what's the matter? He looked at her with a smile. Her cheeks, which had returned to normal, began to warm up again. She looked away and stared straight ahead. I want to discuss with you. Keep our marriage a secret for now. Don't let anyone know about it, including your family. His face darkened. Why? She had already thought of an excuse. With a bitter smile, she said, you should have seen it this morning. Your grandmother hates me and doesn't want me to marry you. If they know that we're married, they definitely won't let it go. I just want to live a stable life. With a squeak, he stopped the car by the side of the road. He turned her shoulders around and his face was terrifyingly gloomy. Because of this, you lied to me and said that the baby is Mika Kito's? She didn't know how he came to the conclusion that the baby was his, but it wasn't important anymore. She sighed and said in a helpless tone, that's right, Bailey Han. We're from two different worlds. Call me hubby. He stared into her eyes and insisted seriously. He had to cultivate this habit of hers. She pursed her lips and said, hubby, in a low voice. Then she said, do you agree with what I said just now? Bailey Han ruffled her hair. I originally planned to get our marriage certificate today and find a good day to hold the wedding within this month. She asked nervously, what about now? He chuckled. Since you don't want to announce it to the public, I'll satisfy your request for the time being. We'll hold the wedding after I convince my family. He also hoped that their wedding would receive the blessings of the whole family. She smiled. Thank you. He leaned over and kissed her forehead. You're welcome, wife. Her face heated up again. Bailey Han sent her to her neighborhood. She wanted to go upstairs alone, but he didn't allow it. He grabbed her hand and dragged her out of the car without any explanation. In the elevator, Xia Dong looked worried. Bailey Han, what did you call me? Bailey Han's eyes narrowed dangerously. He suddenly bent over and kissed her on the lips. You. Let go of me. Xia Dong hit his chest. Just then, the elevator door opened and someone walked in. Xia Dong's face was flushed red. Bailey Han let go of her as if nothing had happened. He said in a low voice, if you call me by the wrong name again, I'll use this method to gag you again. Xia Dong was embarrassed and angry at the same time. She pinched his waist hard. They walked out of the elevator and walked towards the door of their house. Xia Dong was like a snail behind them. Bailey Han didn't rush her. He turned around and waited for her patiently. She said helplessly, Bailey Han. Hubby, my aunt is at home. He raised his eyebrows. Great. Aunt is here. I'll tell her about us. No, it's not good at all. Xia Dong quickly went forward and grabbed his arm. She said anxiously, you promised me that you couldn't let anyone know about our marriage. Bailey Han's face darkened. If I don't tell Aunt about our marriage, what if she arranges another blind date for you? His eyes were filled with danger. She couldn't help but gulp. At most, I'll find an excuse, he closed in on her. You can find an excuse once or twice. Are you going to find an excuse every time? Tell her that we're married. This is the best way to solve the problem once and for all. He was already very upset that he couldn't announce their marriage to his family for the time being. How could he watch her go on another blind date? He might as well take his life. No, we can't let Aunt know. Xia Dong anxiously grabbed his arm. He gripped her wrist tightly. His eyes were firm. Xia, don't be afraid. No matter what the problem is, we'll face it together. No. Xia Dong shook her head violently. She wasn't mentally prepared yet. Moreover, her aunt would definitely not agree to it. Hurry up and open the door. He put his arm around her shoulders and dragged her to the door. I'm not opening it. She hugged her handbag tightly and refused to take out her keys. His lips curled into a smile. He reached out and pressed the doorbell. Do you think I can't enter without a key? Xia Dong couldn't stop him in time. She could only watch as her aunt opened the door. Xia, this. Mr. Bailey, what are you doing here? Xia Yun looked at the two people at the door in surprise. Bailey Han even placed his hand on Xia Dong's shoulder. Bailey Han said calmly, Aunt, Xia and I have good news for you. Aunt? Xia Yun thought she had misheard. Her lips twitched and she forced an ugly smile. What's the matter? Come in and talk. In the living room, Xiao Guai and Xiao Bao were curled up on the sofa watching cartoons. Mommy, Uncle Bailey. Xiao Guai blinked. Mommy and Uncle Bailey both had strange expressions on their faces. Xiao Bao stroked his chin. From Bailey Han's smug smile, he could already guess that his scheme had succeeded. Bailey Han smiled and patted Xiao Guai's head. He then patted Xiao Bao's little shoulder like the head of the family. Xiao Bao, Xiao Guai, Uncle has something to discuss. Can you go back to your room first? Okay, the two children eagerly entered the room. Xia Dong hung her head dejectedly like a defeated rooster. Bailey Han secretly held her hand. The smile on his face had disappeared. He looked at Xia Yun seriously and said, Aunt, Xia and I are married. What? Xia Yun was so excited that she almost jumped up from the sofa. Married? When did this happen? Just now. We went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get our marriage certificate. Xia Yun took a while to recover from the huge shock. I don't believe it. Show me your marriage certificate. Bailey Han took out the newly released marriage certificate. Xia Yun trembled as she opened the marriage certificate. Although Xia Dong's expression in the photo was twisted and her movements were stiff, and there seemed to be someone holding her back and head, this was indeed a marriage certificate. A genuine marriage certificate. Xia Dong's eyes lit up when she saw the marriage certificate. She really wanted to pounce on it and snatch it. Xia Yun looked at it carefully 3 times. In the end, her eyes rolled back and she fainted on the sofa. Aunt, Xia Dong frantically pinched Xia Yun's philtrum. Bailey Han took an ice cube and put it on her forehead. After a few minutes, Xia Yun slowly woke up. The first thing she said was, divorce. Go and get a divorce now. Bailey Han said faintly, the Civil Affairs Bureau is closed now. Then go tomorrow. We have to get a divorce anyway. Aunt, Xia and I are already married. I won't agree to a divorce. Xia Yun removed the ice cube from her forehead and sat up. Mr. Bailey, don't call me aunt. I don't deserve it. Xia and you are from 2 different worlds. You are not suitable for each other. Xia Dong hurriedly said, Bailey Han, my aunt doesn't agree to it either. Let's get a divorce. Her voice became softer and softer because she noticed that Bailey Han's expression had turned very ugly. He was even glaring at her fiercely. Facing Xia Yun, Bailey Han remained polite and courteous. Aunt, Xia is marrying me. I won't let her suffer any grievances. Xia Yun sighed. Bailey Han, let me ask you. What do you like about Xia? Bailey Han pursed his lips and said slowly, I don't know. When I realized that I had fallen in love with her, I was already willing to give up my life for her. Xia Dong's heart trembled. She recalled how he had knocked her head and made her bleed. Xia Yun was stunned. After a moment of silence, she shook her head. Even if you're sincere about her, I can't agree to it. Xia is a very simple person. She's not suitable for your family. Besides, your family won't accept her. If the outside world finds out, it will cause a huge uproar. The one who will be hurt is Xia. You know Xia's situation. She has to raise 2 children by herself. It's already very hard for her. She doesn't have the energy to deal with those troublesome things. If you really love her, then don't hurt her. Shinwu 799. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.